Good morning, everybody. Yeah, we're gonna get started. My name is Kim Way, and I'm the Director of Training with the Michigan Works Association. I just wanted to go over a few housekeeping things before I turn it over to the real stars of the show. So thank you for joining us for the first ever virtual Apprenticeship Launch Network, State Apprenticeships Expansion Strategy Planning and Labor Trades. Wow, that was a mouthful. We have quite an agenda for you today, loaded with industry experts, and I know that you will get a lot out of this. Just a few housekeeping things. If you are not speaking, please put your microphones on mute. We know that there's going to be dogs barking and people coming in, so just for the pleasure of the rest of the participants, I will be on monitoring questions in the chat. So if you would like to ask questions there, please feel free to do so. And when the time comes, I will be able to bring it up to our presenters. Breaks are built into the agenda. They have been nice enough to do that. So if you are going to walk away from your computer, please know that there are breaks coming up just so that you have time to do that. And now I would like to turn it over to Scott Jadell.
Thank you so much, and good morning. Welcome. Please grab an agenda, and Russ did bring donuts, so go ahead, grab a donut. I think I looked online to grab the little pictures, and I actually think Russ took that one there where you see the display cabinet. And then if you look real carefully behind the red cup that makes the Donna's Donuts sign, I think that's Russ's car. And even if you go to Google Satellite, I think you can see his car in the parking lot there. And I think, Russ, those are actually the donuts that were left over from the last meeting. I don't think we finished them all, did we?
I think you're right, Scott, and I think we'd all enjoy one of those today.
So less calories virtually than in reality. So welcome each. Great job for the introduction. Thank you so much. Good morning. We are going to be in a Zoom format, so I've been learning that here pretty quickly this morning. We typically use Teams, but this seems pretty competent as well. And we're going to run from 8:30 till 12:30, and we're going to be done by 12:30 this morning. We're going to do a quick breeze through the agenda just so you know what's going to happen. Breaks are in there, as Kim mentioned, and questions go in the chat, and there's also a spot at the end of the meeting. If you want to put them in the chat, that's perfect. If you want to make a note, if you got a pen nearby, that's also perfect. We're going to have a chance to deal with unfinished questions at the end of the session. So Russ is going to get us started here in just a second with a welcome and opening remarks. I'm going to talk a little bit about 2020 State Apprenticeship Expansion Planning. Natalie and Jenny, excuse me, are going to lead us through Michigan Training Connect updates. And then we're going to see a how it works with Howard Hypes and Wanda Bigelow. There's that first break. We'll be ready for that by 9:50. Then there's a panel discussion with Labor Trades and the Office of Apprenticeship, Russ and John. Then another break following that. We think we'll be ready again. Those are going to be 10 minutes or less. So we're going to be sure we're all back on time so we can stay on schedule. Michigan Works Agency Apprenticeship Success Coordinator introductions. Kevin's going to lead us through that one. And I'm going to facilitate a question and answer session and some closing remarks. So with that, any questions before we start formally? Hearing none. And if you forgot to take your mute off, I'm sorry, but Russ, please proceed.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Apprenticeship Launch Network 06. As you know, we had been planning this for quite some time, and in fact, to be in person, but due to the COVID, we had to change this format. thanks to the whole ALN team that put this together in this format. I hope that it'll satisfy what the goals that we're trying to achieve. And we are getting better at this Zoom and Microsoft Teams. As I said yesterday at the MEDA conference virtual, 6 months ago or so, I didn't even know what Microsoft Teams or Zoom was. And lo and behold, we have learned, and we have continued to expand Registered Apprenticeships through this format. To tell everybody, I have had one face-to-face meeting with the training coordinators back, I think it was in June. We had a social distancing with about 15 training coordinators, the construction, and the main reason for that is I wanted to find out what was going on with the construction trades as far as the new format, the new hybrids, and how we were going to go forward with what was going on now. We did quite well, people. This pavilion is only about a mile from my house. I live up in the Thumb, in near Vassar, and we were doing really well until a huge white-tail buck came out into the cornfield, and I was trying to talk, and this buck was looking at me, and everybody wondered, what the heck's Russ staring at there? Everybody turned around. Corn was about knee-high, and so, but we did learn a lot in the fact that our training coordinators, and we've all had to readjust on how we're going to continue to do our education piece of our registered apprenticeships. And on top of that, our apprentice train representatives have done information sessions with potential sponsors. And I'm going to get to that about our numbers. And so we are continually to expand registered apprenticeship. Today we have 1,084 programs with 37 new programs. That's down from 95 last year, but as you know from the COVID, that's a little hit on us. We still continue to hold some good numbers at 19,300 apprentices. We have 1,230 veteran apprentices, and I wanted to share that number because I'm going to talk about what's going on with our new standards. And new apprentices, we got 5,300 with 1,906 completers. Both of those numbers are down just a tad from last year. We expected that. Starting September 22nd, which was just 2 days ago, some of you may have known way back, and I think it was the fall or maybe early spring, Senator Peters was at Local 85 promoting the act, and it was a bill supporting to put language into the standards for sponsors to acknowledge that if you're a veteran, you'll be aware of the benefits for the veterans. Starting September 22nd for all union, non-union standards, there's a section 3 in there for the sponsors to readily read what are the benefits for the sponsors. I'm going to read just the parts of it. One, this is an addendum, and it's also in what I call section 3 for all the standards. The program sponsor is aware of the availability of the educational assistance for veterans and other eligible individuals under Chapter 30 through 36 of Title 38 United States Code for the use in connection with a registered apprenticeship program. The program sponsor will make a good faith effort to obtain approval for all educational assistance described in the paragraph above. For at a minimum, each program location employs or recruits as a veteran or other individuals for educational assistance under Chapter 30 through 36 of Title 38 of the United States Code. And the program sponsor will not deny the application of qualified who is a veteran or other individual eligible for educational assistance described in a paragraph above for the purpose of making a good faith effort to obtain approval as it's described in the paragraphs. So you ASCs that are working on potential sponsors, new programs on what you need to get with myself or with the apprentice training coordinators, representatives, Mark Tiffany or Mary Beth to make sure that we have those new standards so that this is in place. We did have a national office meeting yesterday, and our new deputy director is the one that's been pushing this. This was under a circular 2020-04, I think, too. We shared that yesterday with Meet. If you want a copy of that, we can get you a copy of that also. But yesterday, Andy shared with us that, as everybody knows, you have to have a 671 apprentice agreement. This will be put into the new 671 also. So there's no way that you cannot avoid seeing this. We were having apprentices that were going into a registered apprenticeship and dropping through the cracks. Thank you to Senator Peters and the team that put this in place. I believe this passed 100-0 in the Senate. Kind of unheard of today. There's going to be as you know, we've done well in the state of Michigan as far as grants. 2015, we were at 12,000 apprentices. Today, we're at 19,300. In 2015, we were awarded the AEI grants. Michigan, the state of Michigan got expansion grants. We filled between everybody on this call and the Leo and the Michigan Works team and all of us, we have really expanded Michigan. And through that, our success stories, Michigan has been awarded quite a few more grants. The funding is going to still increase. In the increase now is in the future is going to be on in the minorities and diversity, especially the Women's Bureau. And so as we move forward, I have raised my hand yesterday and said I want Michigan to be on one of those lead pilot programs to support diversity and minorities. And I know all of you, the construction trades on this call, have been very, very supportive of that issue, but we can still do a better job in our inner cities. And so as this comes down the pipe, we'll let everybody know, but this is just an initial stages that John Ladd shared with us yesterday. I was excited about hearing about that. And so with that, I think that's just about all I have, Scott, for a quick update. But I appreciate everybody being on the call. And thanks to the team that put this together. Thank you, Scott.
You're welcome. Thank you, Russ. Any quick questions for Russ related to what he shared? Great news, Russ. Thankful to hear that the expansion dollars will continue and that the activities which we're already focused on will be further funded is very exciting. So thanks so much for the overview and also explaining the impact to veterans moving forward. So I have for the state apprenticeship expansion plans, I've got a few slides that I pulled to just help kind of guide us through a brief of the 2020 plans. Russ did an excellent job of introducing the topic area. And I'm gonna, if I can here, there we go. I'm gonna pop down here and pull up a few slides that will kind of guide us through a little bit of the expansion planning. We did have a closed meeting today. Typically our apprenticeship learning or launch network sessions are open, so there'd be a lot more people here, but we really wanted to focus on the relationship that Russ mentioned between our regions, the Office of Apprenticeship, and our labor trades as a follow-up to our last session where we worked on credentials and interim credentials. So part of today's opportunity is to now talk a little bit about the funding that's coming into the state. The way we're going to do that is talk about Michigan's current strategy for expansion, what we're looking to improve in 2020, beginning already. Our grant started on July 1st, so we're already in the period of performance. The plan, a couple elements that I hope you'll find noteworthy, and then what your role is. Our strategy is, I would say, not the easiest one. However, I think it's a really powerful one. To have employer labor as partners, right? Can't have a registered program without them. The Office of Apprenticeship and then our regional Michigan Works agencies and Apprenticeship Success Coordinators on board is kind of a coordination challenge, right? Because there's a lot of people involved. Many states actually took a strategy early in expansion to hire what I called kind of hired guns, right? That are come into a state, they're responsible to kind of pull people together and help expand apprenticeship. But once that activity is over, they typically move on to another area. So I really like the state's approach, even though it's not the easiest one. You know, we have actually representation in every region with ATRs that cover the state and apprenticeship success coordinators in each region. And expansion doesn't happen in Lansing. Expansion happens there in the regions where you guys are doing the work. So you actually expand apprenticeship. And so our plan should try and support your activities. And the color is intentionally gold because I think that is the winning strategy, especially this morning as we start looking at tying in WIOA funding, which are heavier dollars, right, into support for the apprenticeship expansion activities. We surveyed all 16 regions. We just finished up here a few weeks ago. We had 16 regional responses originally. Those fed into the business case for the grant applications. And as Russ mentioned, resulted in currently $19 million in active expansion funds. That was one of the requests. Secondly, to provide strategies and guidance for each region. Everybody kind of agreed, these are the big topics that came out of the survey, that we need to have a better state and regional registered apprenticeship system in place so everybody knows what's going on in each region and at the state level. They also said, look, there's a lot going on with youth CTE training, and we need that to be better tied into registered apprenticeship options. Russ already mentioned underrepresented population inclusion. We're going to work on best practice replication. Hopefully, we're going to work on new projects as they become available nationally. And also, like today, Apprenticeship Launch Network sessions on improving our access to underrepresented population, including them. Reduced reporting and tracking was kind of a common theme from all the regions. So we're working to streamline that, both reporting and data access. And then improve our registration process. So better coordination between the Office of Apprenticeship and the activities in each region with MWAs. And we are doing that. Part of that activity is exactly what's happening here this morning. Then provide an apprenticeship campaign. And Russ, I was really pleased Friday to see a note from John Ladd to all the grantees explaining the national efforts that were announced on Friday for the national marketing campaign. Very exciting. It kind of, the tagline is for both job seekers and employers, your plan is action. And Michigan is one of 21 states that are going to be fed streaming TV ads and other marketing materials because of our grant activity, kind of on behalf of the state through the national outreach efforts. So that's pretty exciting. So what does the plan look like? Well, the plan sets up with performance. We don't get grant funding without specifying how we'll do. And our numbers are very aggressive. They had to be in order to achieve those funds. So we set performance metrics at more than 6,000 new registered apprentices in 3 years. We said that we're going to significantly increase underrepresented population, including veterans. We're going to have more than 1,000 new youth registered apprentices. And for those who were able to attend META yesterday, Russ mentioned the META conference. Brandon was on the panel, an apprentice that had come through the Youth with Disabilities program at the state of Michigan. So we're suggesting 100 of those. It was exciting to see him and his success. We're suggesting 100 youth with disabilities will be part of those more than 1,000 youth registered apprentices. I think Spider-Man was where this came from, but they said with significant performance metrics comes significant opportunity, right? That's our chance to impact like 6,000 lives in a major way. Strengthen partnerships with you, with the Office of Apprenticeship. A big focus, Michigan Department of Education is full partners on our youth apprenticeship activity. You understand how critical that is. Specifically, the Office of Career and Technical Education, and then also the Michigan Department of Military and Veterans Affairs on the Veterans Outreach piece, and many others. The plan is state level and regional leadership. So we're going to have a new state level apprenticeship advisory board that's going to set guidance and direction at the state level. And then regional implementation consortia. These consortia are made up of regional apprenticeship stakeholders. They're going to apply for subawards in a competitive criteria-based RFP, request for proposals, that'll be put out this fall. And they're going to lead regional program implementation. We expect that these consortia, many of them are already in place. And so we call them generally consortia. And they're going to, we're going to try to increase the demand through cost reimbursements for both employers and services in each region through these groups as they expand registered programs and readiness education. The partners for these groups will include employers and organized labor, Office of Apprenticeship Training Representatives, the ATRs, secondary educational partners, intermediate school districts, and career education planning districts. Also Michigan Works agencies, including our Apprenticeship Success Coordinators, one or more post-secondary institutions, vocational rehabilitation, and others. So that kind of gives you a snapshot of the working groups that we'll be looking to fund over the next several years. So I just pulled a couple of noteworthy plan elements out of the plan. One is a registered apprenticeship program website landing page. And the request was that we improve access for both job seekers and employers. And everybody wanted a one button push approach, which is not quite what's going to happen. Our goal is really to get both job seekers and employers to somebody who can help them, to have connection information for a human that's working on an ATR or an Apprenticeship Success Coordinator or a labor trades contact, right? So that we can be productive at getting them there quickly. However, this first step is going to create one location for Michigan that has regional access to information and connects with national information. Also, a common resource repository. The flyers that you're looking at there are actually now created, and they'll be first published in that repository. And those are Michigan specific for both employers and for job seekers. Best practice documentation, links to reference materials. Apprenticeship is kind of a hot topic, so there's lots of materials available. On that, inside that repository, we'll have links to those. A system acronymed RAPTOR, which is an automated e-tool for tracking apprenticeship program progress. And the system is not going to be called RAPTOR. That's a placeholder that we used in the grant writing because it fit registered apprenticeship progress tracking with online reporting, and that's a F22 RAPTOR. The system itself tracks skills, hours, and courses. This will either be a system that's procured that already exists, or it'll be one that's developed. but it'll look like the system on the right, where the home page of the app actually shows progress to date in the program. These are typically driven by the apprentice through their mobile phone or a PC. They tack on their hours or the skills that they're gaining. It has an automated nag function, which alerts the mentor, and the mentor says yes or no. Then it tags the supervisor to tell, okay, was that where we're at? Is this what happened? Yes, and we're good to go. Then it has an automated report builder. Everything is stored online, and we think that'll help to make it easier for employers and sponsors to adopt programs, track progress, and have the records for completion certificates. The Apprenticeship Launch Network is kind of reset, the Apprenticeship Learning Network, primarily because we're kind of in launch mode. There's a lot of great information. People are way better informed about apprenticeship than they were 5 years ago. So we feel like launch is kind of where we're at. Like this session, our sessions will be employer and labor engagement focused. They're going to be hands-on workshops, often underrepresented population themed. Our next one is going to be on veterans, October 22nd. They'll be developed with toolkit materials so that regions that want to have a similar event locally can do so. And then to finish up plan elements, the enhanced regional capacity says we're going to continue to focus on the regional strategy. We're going to continue to invest in the gold area, which is having access in each region of the state to support for registered apprenticeship, remembering expansion happens there. What's your role? Actually, you're already in your role. So thank you for your service to date. The Star Wars theme is stay on target, stay on target. Patience and persistence that you've shown to date equals registered apprenticeship expansion. Russ just gave us the numbers. He talked about how current opportunities are a tribute to your work, so well done. And then please prepare to support those regional implementation consortia. Remember, that's where the funds are going to come and the expansion planning is going to be rolled out. Your work and feedback is critical to success. Thank you each. And I'm all set. Any questions?
Scott, this is Russ.
Yes, sir.
Will you share these slides with, we'll be able to have these slides?
Absolutely. Yep. We will share those. So I'll take a note. You're welcome.
Appreciate it. Good job, Scott.
Thank you, Russ. Okay, so next up on the agenda is, no way, sorry. Here we go. One slide out of place there. Next up on the agenda is Michigan Training Connect update. So welcome, Natalie and Jenny.
Give me one moment to figure this out.
Sure. If needed, we got some pretty competent help in the, there you are. Okay. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Okay, let me steal some share screen.
You should have it.
Ooh.
A little different than Teams, right?
It is a little different from Teams. Natalie, can you see the screen?
I can see it, yes.
Okay, wonderful.
Okay, so I will go ahead and get started. My name is Natalie Taylor, and this is Jenny Spalding. We work together at the state of Michigan, and we work on the daily operations and the system enhancements for Michigan Training Connect. We will also be joined by Howard Hypes. So Howard, if you have comments along the way, feel free to jump in and add any information that you feel we need to share as well. So, okay, so I'm going to move on to a couple of ways that we can offer support for eligible participants We can offer support through on-the-job training, otherwise known as OJT components of registered apprenticeships. Also through related training instruction, which is commonly referred to as RTIs, which is mainly what Jenny and I will be talking about today. And later on in the presentation, she'll walk through some of the screens and some of the enhancements that we've made to make it a little easier for apprenticeships to get registered on MITC. There's also the incumbent worker training, which is upskilling apprentices who already have a working or training relationship within an RA program. We can also offer training program supportive services such as tuition, books, supplies, any testing fees, uniforms, tools, or other required items, and that is subject to the local MWA policy. And then there's also benefits available through the GI Bill, which is monthly housing allowance, books and supplies, and allowance for those type of things. So one of the things that we wanted to talk about is the support for the eligible participants. Some of the local MWAs may currently be apprehensive to use WIOA funding to support RAs because doing so could reflect negatively on their performance indicators. So a solution to this credential issue would be to enhance and expand one of the USDOL's focus strategies by using the WIOA funding to help support those, the RTI elements of the RAs. So what we've done here at MITC is that any apprenticeships, they do automatically have inclusion on MITC. So like I said, we've made it a little bit easier to get those RTI components onto MITC. There's very limited details required, and apprenticeships have also been waived from all of the outcome reporting that is required on from other training providers that are listed on MITC. And once an apprenticeship or the RTI components of apprenticeships are approved to be listed on MITC, they will remain on there until the sponsor requests their removal. Let's see. So USDOL direction led us to redesign MITC by simplifying that RTI entry, and also by, we can now add it by occupation. Again, it's just ease of getting that information on MITC. So once a sponsor has an account on MITC and they start adding programs, once it's indicated that it is an apprenticeship, the screens change and they're greatly reduced for registered apprenticeships. All right, so the process to get listed on MITC is that the sponsor would submit an application to us at leo-mitc@michigan.gov. And we are planning to automate this application process in 2021. It can't come soon enough in our opinion, but hopefully that will be there soon. And then what will happen is we at Leo will verify the sponsor status through Rapids or the apprenticeship team, and then we'll create a sponsor account. And then what we'll do once the sponsor account has been created, we will email all of the login credentials to the sponsor and add any administrative users along with an apprenticeship user guide. And then we can also always be contacted at that email address for any additional questions. So, like I said before, USDOL stipulates that any registered apprenticeship has automatic inclusion. They've already been vetted through USDOL, so the process is a lot quicker and easier. We don't have to go through a lot of the verification that we would for other programs that we are adding to MITC. Pre-apprenticeships are not regulated or tracked or verified. Or verifiable, so they cannot be listed without a proprietary school license or by an organization that has the appropriate licensing, such as colleges. And then with that, I'm actually going to go ahead and turn it over to Jenny so she can walk through the screens that I talked about earlier, just to give a visual of how much easier it is to get this information on MITC.
Everyone. Actually, Howard, you and I, before we started the presentation, we talked about that last bullet. Do you have anything to add to the pre-apprenticeship topic?
Natalie, this is Howard. I didn't catch that. Apparently, I was thinking about something else. Were you talking about me jumping in?
No, Howard, it's Jenny. I was just, our segue into my portion to explaining the screens ended on the pre-apprenticeship bullet. And I know that you and I, in our conversation yesterday, had talked about some movement with the pre-apprenticeship programs. Do you want to talk on that, or?
I can. There's some legislation that has been taken to the House Education Committee and is now going to the House Ways and Means Committee. I know it comes up for a review again today, or a vote at 10:30, and it's House Bill 4174 that would change the language in the Proprietary School Act of 148 of 1943 for Michigan, and it would create a exception to the Proprietary School Act in the state of Michigan for registered apprenticeship programs that are also approved through the Department of Labor Office of Apprenticeship, and pre-apprenticeships or apprentice readiness programs that are the same, that fall under the 29 USC. I'm sorry, I'm not thinking of 29 USC 50 to 50B Act, and also are approved through the Department of Labor Office of Apprenticeship. So they would then be program sponsor pre-apprenticeships. That is the actual language. So it's not just any pre-apprenticeship, it's a quality pre-apprenticeship defined by Tegels that actually lead to employment. Because a lot of, as we know, over the years, a lot of money has been expended on pre-apprentice training, quote unquote, that really never led to a job or an actual registered apprenticeship. So, the purpose of the legislation is to provide exemption from the Proprietary School Act so that program sponsors that are approved can now participate in providing registered apprenticeship that would be covered under then WIOA, as I understand it.
We're really excited about that because, again, our programs are under WIOA, which is federal legislation. So we've been following their documentation and allowing them, the registered apprenticeship sponsors, regardless of proprietary schools, on our list. So that alignment to bring the state law into alignment with federal is important, and hopefully will benefit all of our sponsors as well. So we'll be working on pre-apprenticeship and ways to identify those in MITC as well. But let's start. Hopefully,
Russ, I'd like to make a comment on that for 1 second.
yes.
Just to reiterate, the Department of Labor Office of Apprenticeship has no jurisdiction over pre-apprenticeships. Unless the apprentice is registered in as an apprentice or STRA, school to registered apprenticeship, we don't. We do endorse those through 1312, like Howard and both of you said, that in order to have a pre-apprenticeship program, you have to have at least one sponsor. And with the sponsor, that will lead to a certificate. And as I've talked to Howard on this many times, behind this pre-apprenticeship, you want to make sure that what those classes are in that pre-apprenticeship, they could articulate back into that registered apprenticeship. And to make that clear, and that's why our 1,084 registered programs, state of Michigan, are flexible and all a little bit different. The same is going to be said about pre-apprenticeship training too, that the said sponsors are the driver behind what we have here. And if they say we just need these 4 classes and this will lead to a interview for apprenticeship or right directly into an apprenticeship, that is good with us. If somebody said we need 2 or we need 5, but they are all leading to a employable registered apprenticeship. So I just want to make clear, and thank you very much.
Thank you. So I hope some people here watching remember what the standard program entry looks like, and the difficulties sometimes in fitting the registered apprenticeship program into the format that's designed for standard educational programs. When you are logged in as your sponsor, of course, you'll start off by, if you're someone who has an administrative account that's attached to more than one school, this is a drop down. But you would select your school or make sure that your sponsorship program account is listed. And then the very first question that everyone has starts off with, is this a USDOL registered apprenticeship program? This then drives the questions that follow. So if we indicate yes, then these are the new screens. So make sure you're comfy, have some coffee, you're sitting back, because we're going to go through 20, 30 slides, right, of everything that's going to be needed for your apprenticeship programs, to be transparent. So instead of identifying a SIP or program code, you're going to start with the ONET code that's right on your apprenticeship standards. So you start with your occupation just like you do in your documentation. So that's been flipped. We no longer start with a program. So you start typing the name or the number. All of the approved occupational codes that come from USDOL at the federal level have been preloaded. That minimizes your choices as well. You'll start typing that in. Occupational title, perhaps the name that's associated with the federal code isn't exactly what you call it. So that gives you an opportunity to name it the way that you refer to it within our state. Then there's a description where you can put a little description, if you'd like, about what this program will be about. The credential upon completion at the end of an apprenticeship is always the apprenticeship certificate of completion. So at this point, this screen, these 7 or 8 fields are truly regarding your entire program. So how long is it? It has to be in years. So if it's less than 1, go ahead and put 1. Number of active apprentices. This isn't defined for us. It also isn't required to be updated. So we'll just ask that, how many active apprentices do you have at the time that you're entering this program? And then any minimum requirements to apply, okay? So 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 fields to describe the overall program that you hold. Then the button indicates add related technical instruction. This is the piece that you'd be asking for funding for your apprentice. Here's where we start all of the details, folks. So that's, you know, the coffee, etc. So the first question asks, is the RTI offered on site? If it's yes, then it already fills in any of the locations that you have under your sponsorship program when it was set up. And you would indicate at any of the different, and you can call these campuses preloaded, but when you add a location, you can name it under your account, whatever you would like. So you just need to let us know that. So it's offered on site. It pre-fills all of the information that's under your sponsor account. And then you can just, you name your program, perhaps you name it year 1, you know, electrician training, just give it a name for us. We still have to have it aligned with programs as they're sent for regular or the more standard format of programs. Provide a little description of what this training will cover. The RTI format is offered in the same choices. It's online, in person, or a hybrid combination. And then it asks for lengths in weeks and hours. And again, depending on how you choose to break out your RTIs, you could call this year one and then list that. You could include the entire RTI over the length of your entire sponsorship. We've seen it entered both ways. We don't have any advice yet because this is still new. But however you list it, you enter how long in weeks. So sometimes if it's 1 week a month, you would still, you put 12 weeks there. Length in hours, I think it's a minimum of 144 a year. If you're reflecting your entire program, you would list that. And then here's the part that is new. What is the cost for this RTI as you've defined, whether in totality or by year or however you're choosing to break this down? We've had some newer folks that are new to MITC that want to tell us zero in this piece. Well, if there's zero cost, then there's no reimbursement that you're asking for from the state, so you wouldn't even want to be on there. They'd say to us, well, this isn't paid by the employers. And again, the whole purpose of an RTI is to reimburse the employer, sponsor, union, whoever is sponsoring this RTI for that training cost. And then that money could be used, internally for your own programming, more teachers, equipment, who knows? But the whole purpose for entering the related technical instruction is to ask for help or to allow the Michigan Works to be able to provide some finance towards the cost. So there has to be a figure in there. If there's any mandatory fees, you would add that as well. And then a key piece for what Natalie mentioned earlier, the reticence from some of the Michigan Works agencies might have been because of the performance pieces, right? So if they enroll someone at the very beginning of a 5-year apprenticeship, then they don't get to claim a credential until the end of those 5 years. And I'm going to step back from that explanation and hope that Wanda will detail that more from her side. But all we know is that if we can add the credentials earned at the end of however you've defined it, either by year, as a totality, enter in the credentials. And we know we've had the discussion and fought very hard for OSHA. OSHA has been denied for the credential attainment indicator, but it doesn't matter. For this piece, go ahead and enter anything that, if this is a college, enter that in if they get a certificate of completion, any outside tests that they have. This is the place where journey worker certifications or state certifications, anything you want. And that's where the plus button comes in. That just means add. And you can really unpack all of the credentials that are built in through the training that you already offer prior to that official certificate of completion of an apprenticeship. And that's another way to assist the Michigan Works to assist you. So again, the choices within the credentials would be industry recognized credential, community college, associate's degree, or certificate of completion from a community college. So, be as elaborate as possible to help your Michigan Works be able to identify some pieces within your entire apprenticeship that they can help use for their performance measures as well. Now, this is the screen that shows if, yes, it's offered on site, meaning the address that is listed under your sponsorship program. And if you go ahead and press then, oh, I'm sorry, I guess I created this slide and I don't even know how that works. So if you enter no, and I've highlighted the wrong piece, my apologies, then that's where you would indicate the community college or other training entity that you actually have work with to provide the RTI. And that just asks for their name. So the community college or wherever you have your training offered, in their addresses. But again, the same descriptor language of just length, description, name, fees, etc., with the same ability for the credentials. Again, I already talked about when you press the plus, it'll give you numerous choices. You indicate what type and then the name. Provide as much detail as you can to help your Michigan Works partners. And then another piece that at the end of the submission process, they're for the standard assurances is 5 or 6 assurances long. And after some discussion, we realized that a couple of them no longer apply due to the federal guidance. So we really minimized these assurances. It just says that you agree to accept ITA funding, that the person who is submitting this information is authorized to submit program information, and that you acknowledge that any information provided on Michigan Training Connect can also be transferred to other internal websites such as Pathfinder or Going Pro. And that's it. You click those assurances and it comes to us, and we just make sure that it looks complete, that the numbers look right. And as soon as on our level, go through Natalie, as soon as we press approve, it goes live on the website. There isn't that, because the feds have said that they're automatically approved, they go live on the website. So that is as smooth as that happens. So I promised you many slides of many screens, and I lied, hoping that you would be impressed with, again, how close and how short, how minimal this information is. And again, we went through the new federal guidance. We met with many of you, well, I was going to say late winter, before the virus hit, and we went through these and asked for your input. So these are live on the screen. They've been implemented since the middle of March. And thanks to our partners that participated, and hopefully you're pleased with our updates.
Hi, Jenny. We have a couple of questions in the chat box. If it's okay if I asked you, there's just 2.
I would love that. Hit me.
Perfect. All right. The first is the RTI cost annually or for the entire duration of the apprentice's training?
So that's the good question. There is no guidance around what we need to share. We are told what this means. So by that, if there's no federal parameters other than these are the required fields that RTIs need to include, but yet they don't provide any guidance on how to break that down, that will be truly at the enterer's discretion. Obviously, you know, for longer terms, it might be interesting to be, and I say interesting only because this is inaugural, right? It's only been available since the middle of March. I think what we've seen is a majority of the sponsors are putting in their total amount. So if it was 5 years worth, they would just call it 1 RTI. But then I don't know if they're really building out as much as they could as far as the credentials within there. So I would really encourage, especially the ones that are over 2 years, to maybe consider, for the Michigan Works sake, to put in, you know, year 1 RTI and then see if they can separate that in year 2, etc. Again, I'm going to rely on Wanda and the Michigan Works to say what would be most useful for them. But Natalie and I are on the tech side and just incorporating federal legislation into our websites and the data that's collected. But the actual usage and advice, you know, we would love to have the conversation with the Michigan Works who actually use that to be able to say how they could best use the opportunities now from this redesign.
Perfect, thank you. And then second question was, I thought the credential had to be part of the RA approval to meet WIOA credential standards.
Well, that's an easy one, because what they say is at the end of a apprenticeship, it is the apprenticeship certificate of completion, which is a complete yes for performance measures, recognized credential, definitely. And so under that, that is where these are accepted. But then we go back, and again, I hope Wanda can help speak to with the actual assistance to that apprentice, the fact that depending on the length of that apprenticeship, that might have been one of the reasons why for longer term apprentices, there might have been less investment by the system into those apprentices because of the length of time. If the apprentice is mostly eligible at the very beginning when their wage is very low, and that's the key piece where WIOA can help in eligibility and enrollment, then if we focus more from a strategic standpoint on outlining early RTIs, if there's a win for everyone earlier in the entire apprenticeship, then that can also be gained as well. And so there could be the credential earned upon the RTI completion. That's where we've broken that out. So at the end, they get the certificate of completion, but as that's not as a result of the RTI, that's as a result of their entire program, the on-the-job training, everything that a sponsor provides through that apprenticeship. That's why looking at the RTI in specific and being able to detail credentials earned as a result of whatever time frame the sponsor chooses to outline will assist. And so I'm sure we'll learn more as more Michigan Works agencies are looking at these and figuring out how to best use what the federal direction has made it, encouraged us to update, and we're happy to be able to implement.
Hi, Jenny. This is Christy Kavasinski from Macomb St. Clair, Michigan Works.
Hi.
And I'll tell you, I've worked for Michigan Works for a long time. And one of the challenges with this is that the only credential that the feds were accepting in a registered apprenticeship is the golden certificate that they get from the U.S. Department of Labor at the end of their program. Michigan Works funding isn't set up to have somebody in the system for 4+ years. So that has been a challenge. And the last that I was aware of, that the credentials that they might learn along the way, if they're not part of the approved register apprenticeship program that has been approved by the USDOL, those credentials cannot be used as a credential, an acceptable credential in the WIOA system. So if that is changed, that would be a game changer for us to help people in the beginning of their program, and then they wouldn't be in the system for that 4 or 5 years, depending on how long the person takes to get done. So that is one challenge. I also wanted to know, and I'm sorry to add this on, but when you were talking about having the length of the program and is the cost full amount, couldn't the state set those parameters so that when somebody's looking at this as an option, or the MWAs are looking, they'll be able to know that that amount that's there is for the whole program, or it's for the first RTI, so that we're not seeing many different levels of cost and length in there.
Hey, Jenny.
I think our issue is everything on MITC used to be system driven. And then what happened was in 2018, under WIOA, they actually released guidelines and expectations around MITC. So that's where everything has, you've seen everything change quite drastically, was as a result of there now being fields that are expected to be visible to the public and reported to them, whereas it used to be just a state tool. And so my concern is, and we always have to be very cognizant when we're designing, is if there's now parameters around what's expected, we can't add an extreme amount of additional information, or then that's frowned upon as well. So I think this is an opportunity, for the apprenticeship team that works at the Michigan Works, that knows about apprentices, knows about enrollment and eligibility in the Michigan Works pieces, to totally have a conversation around how to, best issue this. And I see Marcia wants to speak.
Hi, Jenny. Hi, everyone. I'm Marcia Black-Watson with Industry Engagement, Labor and Economic Opportunity. The first part of Christy's comments regarding U.S. Department of Labor and the actual apprenticeship completion certificate. So it was through instruction and advisement from the U.S. Department of Labor that we started looking at embedded credentials within the Registered Apprenticeship Program and the identification of those credentials as a means for really meeting that certificate gain or credential gain as a part of support to that apprentice or job seeker. So USDOL does accept interim credentials as long as they are truly credentials to satisfy support to an apprentice. Is through their advisement that we learned it does not have to be the actual apprenticeship program completion certificate. You can utilize other certifications that are gained along the way. So it is through their advisement. We had asked for a waiver so that the credential attainment performance requirement would not apply to registered apprenticeship. And they said no, that you could use, and they said you need to identify, you need to sort of asset map what are other credentials that are gained throughout the life of an apprenticeship, whether it's 3, 4, or 5 years. And if you can identify those that are gained, then those can be used.
Marcia, this is Christy again.
Yep.
In earlier conversations, we talked about those interim credentials, and we were told that those interim credentials had to be part of the approved registered apprenticeship. It had to be in the paperwork that these are the credentials that the person will earn as they're going through. And if I'm not mistaken, that when we talked about that, they said that those getting a program having those interim credentials is a little bit more extensive than not having those interim credentials in the actual registered apprenticeship that's been approved. So I don't know if Russ can.
Yeah, so Christy, I hope I didn't use interim, but I meant embedded. So there's a difference between embedded credentials and interim credentials, and Russ can speak to that. What we are really focusing on are those embedded credentials, ones that would be gained along the way, and certainly would be a part of the program that is approved through registered apprenticeship. Adding on, it would be ones that are identified as a part. And that's what we've been looking at. Absolutely.
Okay, I think this is great because that will open the door for funding along the way. So I'm really excited to hear the other end of that, and if they actually have to appear on the paperwork that gets approved, or if it's something that is outlined on the Michigan Talent Connect, Training Connect, I mean.
Right, because those that are identified in the MITC shouldn't be just any credentials. It should be ones that are a part of the program. Shouldn't be just any. It should be ones that are a part of the program. And as we have talked to the training directors, they have verified that there are embedded credentials that are a part of the programs. Now, interim credentials would be ones that are bundled, identified and created, and then they would have to be approved by the Office of Apprenticeship. But I don't want to speak for Russ, but we're talking about embedded credentials that really already exist, but they're a part of the registered apprenticeship program already.
Christy and Marcia and everybody, we've had lengthy conversations with the training coordinators about this. We do have, in our 1,200 plus occupations, we do have occupations that already have interim credentials, meaning that you're going to go through 6 months or a year of doing this. You would get that interim credential from Washington, move on to the next step.
Yeah.
With the training coordinators, our conversation of our 3, 4, and 5-year apprenticeships, we don't have an interim credential, so to speak, but what we do have is embedded credentials. These embedded credentials may be that they have to learn X, Y, and Z and get this certificate before they move on. And so there is a distinctively difference. We've had this conversation not only with this group, with Marcia's group in Lansing and all the way in regional and all the way up to DC about, do we go and add more interim credentials to our occupations that we currently have? In those conversations, we aren't getting much traction for that. We are getting traction about what we're doing here in our embedded credentials. Is making an interim credential to, let's say that, I'm going to pick on the carpenters for a second. That could be a game changer for that particular program. And with all the embedded credentials, there's not the support there, I don't believe. I don't want to speak for the training coordinators. Howard, you might want to add to what I'm saying, but this does get a little bit fuzzy, but we do have those interim credentials in a healthcare area right now.
Russ, before we move on to Howard, could you explain the difference between interim and embedded credentials?
Sure. The interim credential is a current program that's set up where you, where the said apprentice knows that they need to take these set of classes, these set of work process, and when they complete all that, they're going to get that certificate back from Washington. And then if they want to move on to that next level, they can. If they want to stop right there, they can also do that. In the embedded credential, let's say that I'm a operator engineer and I need to learn some piece of hoisting before I move on to that next level, and it's part of my apprenticeship. When I get that, complete those tasks on the embedded, I might get an internal certificate from that operating engineer. We as a Department of Labor don't see that. All I see is they're going to do 500 hours of hoisting. They're going to do 1,000 hours of this. But in their program, they said, you need to learn that skill set. But as you heard me just say, that interim credential is going to come from DC, our office in Washington. It's not through regional office. It's not through me. Now, when you get a completion certificate from the Department of Labor, as you know, It comes from John Ladder from Washington, D.C., and that's your certificate for completion of the whole program. I hope I answered your question. Howard?
Yeah, I think that explained it well. One more before, sorry, I keep interrupting. Would
Okay.
OSHA 30 be an example of an embedded credential?
Yes, it would. Well, Howard, I would say if it could be, but then again, I know I saw Howard shaking his head. There are certain embedded credentials that aren't recognized, but so
That's right.
I'm going to refer to the experts on that.
Yeah,
Thanks,
it is embedded, but it's not recognized by WIOA.
There you go. There, thanks, Marcia. So yeah, we've got lists that they recognize and lists they don't. It's, it gets sticky.
It's clear as mud sometimes.
Good job. Go ahead, Howard, add to what I had to say there. But I mean, we've had lengthy conversations on this.
Well, I'm going to hit it as some of the points in our PowerPoint if they're ready to move on. I know I'm going to have to drink more coffee to be done in 10 minutes, but do we want to move on, Scott?
Yeah, so I think maybe speaking of drinking coffee, what might make sense is that we take a 10-minute break and give everybody a chance to pick up another one of Russ's Donna's Donuts, and then we'll come right back. Please do come right back though, and we'll just kind of adjust here. If that sounds okay to you, Howard.
Perfectly fine.
Okay, let's do that. I'll start a timer on our screen here, and then we will be back in 10. Thank you. How are you doing it?
Right, that
There
wasn't
it is.
hard at all. Just let me know when we're ready to get going.
Well, I gotta tell you, we're out of time on the timer, so we are ready to roll.
All right, I'll let you start, Howard.
Okay, this is Howard Hypes, and I'm the Apprentice Training Coordinator for the Bricklayers and Allied Craft Workers for all of outstate Michigan except Detroit. And we're going to share our experience.
All right, and I'm Wanda Bigelow, the Apprenticeship Manager with GST Michigan Works. I just wanted to, before we jump right into doing the Michigan Training Connect information, I wanted to give some information about how we arrived to where we are. When I originally started this role, I was asked in the interview, what do you see as your two main goals? And instantly I knew that it was increasing knowledge of construction trade apprenticeship programs and also building the relationships with the training coordinators at the unions in the region. So I started with increasing knowledge. It was both with job seekers and career coaches. I knew that I needed career coaches to understand about apprenticeships before I could, because I couldn't do it on my own, I should say. When I first started, I would get any phone call. When somebody said the word apprenticeship, I would get a phone call or an email. Usually my question was, is this person a good fit for the industry or the occupation? Or, and I just got information, or I got a reply of, well, I don't know, they just want to be in an apprenticeship program. So I knew that we had to do something a little bit different than that. I started out by meeting with career coaches in each of the 6 service centers in the region and providing them with detailed information about all of the unions and what was required for an individual to get into that specific union. I also created this this sheet right here that talks about or gives bullet points of what career coaches are already doing with job seekers. I just took the word and put apprentice. It seemed like for some reason, whenever career coaches had a job seeker in front of them that said apprenticeship, there was a struggle of what do I do next? And so we took and just put these things together, again, outlining exactly what they're already experts at doing, and just included the word apprentice. I tried to stress, and this was helping stress the point that just because somebody contacted them and said, hey, I want to be in an apprenticeship program, didn't necessarily mean that they had the skills to be in whatever apprenticeship program that they wanted to be in. Okay, so the next step was increasing knowledge of job seekers, and that was creating material that would help job seekers understand what opportunities were available to them with careers in the building trade unions. There's so much information online, but I wanted that information being given to the job seekers in this region specific to the unions that cover the union or this region. I compiled a lot of information, and then I emailed all of the information I had that I thought would be the most important for job seekers to the training coordinators at each of the unions. And then we ended up coming up with some 4 by 6 inch postcards that covered trade summary, all of the requirements, including work keys and required documents, occupations within the union. We completed a total of 22 of these postcards. The original intent was for these cards would be used with job seekers that were interested in a union, but actually we found that career coaches were using them, high school guidance counselors, and they were being passed out to high school students. So now that's just that's who we're distributing them to. This is the second version of the card. We have updated it from the first year. Every year, some of this information change, or some of the union's information changes, so it definitely has to be checked. All right. So, building relationships was goal number 2. Under the enrollment date, or the open enrollment dates over here, you can see that it gives directions to job seekers on going to the website for the Michigan or the bricklayers and applying, or they can apply at any of the GST Michigan Works locations. And I gave times and dates. So when I first began, the business services manager was already working with the Michigan Labor's Training and Apprenticeship Institute. Then shortly after I started, I got looped into a discussion about their process and their hiring process, and I provided all of that information to career coaches. Again, I work really closely with them because they ultimately are the ones working with the job seekers. Once I was pretty confident with the laborers hiring process, I ended up approaching the ironworkers and the bricklayers union, and I gave them examples of what was happening with the laborers union and asked them if GST could start accepting applications on their behalf. They had some things to do on their side, but once they gave me the go-ahead, then I sat down with them. I got detailed information about their hiring process. So in total, we were recruiting and accepting applications for 3 of the unions. Each of the hiring processes were completely different. So we had to definitely make sure that we were following each one to a T. The ultimate goal was that the job seekers applying through Michigan Works didn't have any kind of advantage over individuals applying right through the training halls. No, I'm sorry, the unions. So even though we did know the advantage was they didn't want advantage over the paperwork in the hiring process. We did offer the advantage that career seekers would be working with the job seekers. I'm messing up here. We did offer the advantage that career coaches would be working with job seekers and that the job seekers would be skilled, qualified individuals because of the work that the career coaches were doing. Unfortunately, COVID made it so we weren't able to continue accepting applications this year, but I know that's something that we're going to pick up and continue doing going forward. These are just some examples of some marketing material that we created to help job seekers know that we are accepting applications for those unions. And then on to you, Howard.
Okay, thank you very much, Wanda. And Jenny's gone, but I want to get a cool green screen like she had.
Yeah.
I need some bricks in the background or something. But Michigan Training Connect, you know, we registered our program on there, and you can see I just threw a slide in. So if you go on Michigan Training Connect now, and you click on apprenticeship certificates, it brings of completion, it brings up our program. You can also search it by name. And we're also, you know, simultaneously, as Jenny mentioned, on the Going Pro. So job seekers or high school students that are doing their own career searches can find out about apprenticeship programs and how to get connected with them. Can you go to the next slide, Wanda? Thank you. So I want to talk about, you know, the whole application process. I guess at this point, I'll just jump into the middle of the conversation that we left off with about embedded credentials and putting an amount in there for the RTI. So to give a little background on that, we didn't just pull a number out of thin air. We did an internal analysis with our legal counsel and our fund managers and came up with a per student price. You know, what does it cost? And then we took into account the fact that there's only so much ITA funds that are available to a client. And that's, in fact, what they are, which I'll talk a little bit more about that later with GST Michigan Works. So we decided as an apprenticeship and training fund board that we don't want to drain the account. So when you get a new apprentice in, we want them to be able to get things that make them successful when they get out there on the job, to be able to get work boots if they need them, to be able to get repairs done on their car or mileage to go back and forth to school. You know, we don't want to hurt their ability to benefit. This money is to benefit that job seeker and that person that is trying to step up into an apprenticeship. And ultimately, that's the goal. We want them to succeed. We want them to gain a journeyman card at the end of this. So we took the approach that we're not going to put on there the total cost of that delivery of that instruction because we want money available for that individual that's going through our program. You'll notice here on this slide that, you know, there's some things that it's asking you to do at the end. And the second bullet point is really important. I am authorized, you know, by my educational institution or organization to submit program information on its behalf. So, you know, that was not a couple of phone calls fix. This took a long time. Legal wanted to know everything about what we were doing from, you know, front to back and everything in between. So there was a huge discovery process with legal counsel, the board of trustees, and legal had to review everything. And then actually, literally months later, I was able to gain approval to go ahead and load our programs on the site. So that was not a very quick or easy process at all. And, you know, even the last bullet point there explaining to the Board of Trustees and to legal counsel the importance of being on the Training Connect and going pro, and the kind of advantage that gives us in getting our name out there and helping people to understand our programs and who we are and what we have to offer. So, you know, it just takes a process, because with any change and with any large change or systemic change, there's always resistance and caution, and there should be. You know, you should fully vet the process. If you could go to the next slide, Wanda. So after we registered our program, we immediately, began working with Wanda. And you need to get with your Apprentice Success Coordinator. They are your point of contact to coordinate with internal partners within Michigan Works to address barriers to success in the apprenticeship program. Go ahead to the next slide. And who are they going to coordinate with? They're going to coordinate with career services. They're going to coordinate with PATH. They're going to coordinate with youth, wherever the application is, to get the most amount of help for that apprentice that's going through the program. Next slide. Career service managers, and this is no news to those of you who are already working for Michigan Works, but assign case workers to the apprentice that's in your program, determine WIOA eligibility. And I want to talk about that for just a minute, and we'll just hover there. Really, that is the first step. So determining WIOA eligibility determines whether or not they can have individual training account dollars available to them. And that's why you want to do it early on in their apprenticeship. Don't wait. Do it immediately. And actually before they start would be my recommendation, so that those dollars are available to them even while they're attending their first classes. So, we've had students that, and I'm sorry, Wanda, I'm jumping into your next slide.
No, it's okay.
Coming up, but, they got work boots and mileage to go back and forth to school. And it was a huge benefit to them. Even car repairs helped them to be to class the way we like it, right? Not only on time, early, and ready to go. Don't come walking in with your boots untied and, you're ready to hit the ground running when you get there. So when the eligibility, one thing about this is that I like as a apprentice coordinator, I like the fact that I'm not involved in that. I don't want to be involved in determining their eligibility for WIOA. That's all done through Michigan Works, and it should be. There should be a level that you are removed from that individual going through your program when it comes to these services, because they are in fact now GSD Michigan Works client. And you don't need to know. Quite honestly, some of the private questions are going to ask them to determine eligibility. Plus, in my opinion, it's a conflict of interest. If we are, in fact, asking to be reimbursed for RTI funding, we definitely don't want to be involved in any part of that, any way, shape, or form. So I like that removal, and they determine all of the eligibility requirements, and some will not be eligible. And that's just the way it will be. They address barriers to employment. Apprentices are clients, and they coordinate all the ITA benefits. So, as the Apprenticeship and Training Fund, you would submit an invoice to Michigan Works, and they determine whether or not you have kept your end of the bargain. And then they will issue the funds, based on that determination. And I think that's all you know, we're all about in registered apprenticeship checks and balances. It's all throughout all of our documents and everything we do. I think it's really important that those checks and balances are in there. Next slide, one, please. Just remember, just driving that point home, clients have to be WIOA eligible to be able to receive ITA funds. And like Marcia, just to tag on to what Marcia said earlier about OSHA, yes, can OSHA be a part of your embedded credentials? Sure, but it is not recognized by WIOA as something that can be reimbursed through ITA dollars. So there are requirements all the way around. That's why we need help and guidance to keep us on the right course, you know, when we're going through this process. Next slide, please. Okay, so now before Wanda gets into her slide, I'm going to transfer it back over to her. I want to touch on for a moment about embedded credentials. So the Bricklayers and Allied Craftworkers International Union has had an embedded credential before I ever got on board 17 years ago. It's always been a part of our apprenticeship program in recognition of completion of related technical instruction. So I didn't have to create an embedded credential, it just already existed. And I was able to take advantage of that. When apprentices complete their RTI, they get a certificate of completion from our training arm of the International Union, which is the International Masonry Institute. And so they issue that certificate of completion when they, you know, we log in their hours and they see that they've completed. We'll request a certificate and they send that to us to give to the apprentice. We will also be sharing that with GST Michigan Works, which is who we're working with right now currently. And that will satisfy the WIOA, not necessarily requirement, but we want everybody to be successful. So it's important that Michigan Works also can report that they have completers and that they earned a certificate. This is how the state of Michigan will continue to get more grant funding. If you want grant funding, you have to show that you have credential attainment of some kind of completion certificate. That is, I'm glad that we can do that, and I think we should, so that we're helping them to actually make this sustainable for the state of Michigan to keep apprenticeship expansion going forward. So, you know, that's our process. I'm just kind of sharing with you how we've lived it. So far, I would not consider myself to be an expert, but it's our experience so far. Wanda?
Yeah, in June, Howard contacted me and stated that he had a class starting. So I coordinated a meeting between Howard and the Career Services Manager. And once they discussed the class dates and everything, and once that date was discussed, then a list of documents that were needed for the eligibility process was sent to Howard, and he emailed those out to all of the individuals that were going to be attending his class. The Career Services Manager took some of his team members to a different location. Howard, didn't you reserve a meeting space at a local hotel in Lansing?
Yes, we took WIOA eligibility on the road with Wanda's help and got into a hotel in Lansing. We had to time it, you know, because we're right in the middle of COVID and we could only have so many people in the room at one time. So we actually, you know, was some scheduling that had to be done to be able to just rotate people in and out to perform this, get this done. And also at the same time, for those of you that are on the line that are from Michigan Works, we did the CASAS assessment right there as well. So Michigan Works brought in laptops and that was all done on site. So that it all worked extremely well. Wanda?
Yep, so here's the breakdown: 5 adults, 5 dislocated workers, and 2 out-of-school youth. Each of these apprentices got a career coach that they're able to work with. 8 of the individuals so far have received supportive services for work boots, and like Howard said, transportation costs as well. Once these apprentices had been assigned a career coach, I stepped out of the equation, and they were in good hands.
So while you're still on that slide, Wanda, for just a second, you'll notice up there that the number is 12. Well, I'm sure all of the apprentice coordinators feel the same way. Just because you become an apprentice in our program doesn't mean we're going to keep you or you even want to stay. So there's always the option. You have 1 year probation period where the apprentice can say, hey, there's no way I'm going to be a bricklayer. You guys are crazy. I'm going to the carpenters, Todd. So, you know, this is going to happen. Plus, the other side of it is we say, you know, you need to go to Rick Mason and be an electrician with the IBEW. You're definitely not going to be, you know, a bricklayer. So, you know, that's the reality, that not everybody makes it. And so I'm bringing this up because we are currently at 10. 12 started, we have 10 in the system. Were they all WIOA eligible? Yes. Did they all complete? No. How many do you think we're billing for in invoicing? Only 10. And the reason is I do not want to have to, number one, reimburse for training costs for people that didn't complete. And the second reason is, so I actually delayed invoicing, for example, to see how it was all going to shake out. And then also, I want to only invoice for those who will actually be completers and get that certificate of completion, that embedded credential. That just is going to be a lot less paperwork and headache, and we all look good. And even our legal counsel said, so you're only going to invoice for completers? And I said, absolutely. I really think that it's my opinion, it's at least our legal counsel's opinion, that that's okay to do that. I prefer to do it that way so that Michigan Works can look good as well, quite honestly. And because and I want you to realize too, as apprentice coordinators that are on the line, Michigan Works owns them, so to speak. So when they become WIOA eligible, it's up to them. They deal with the fallout. So if they don't come through our program, they now have to begin to work with them to continue to coach them to get places. Am I correct, Wanda?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
So, you know, we don't want to, our screening process is the same. I want to also point that out to our apprentice and train coordinators on the line. If you go to our program on Michigan Training Connect and you look at eligibility requirements, we have on there what actually we have in our standards. So it says emphatically on there, you must complete an oral interview, and you have to meet all the minimum requirements, just exactly like our standards say. And therefore, we are not just bringing anybody in that's WIOA eligible and meets the minimum requirements. They have to complete the oral interview and be accepted into the program. So we didn't change our method of entry, and I think that's very important that we keep, you know, an eye on that and make sure that you put that in your reporting. You know, when you say what are the requirements to get in, that needs to be in there. Oh, I'm done, Wanda.
All right. All right, so some additional expansion activities that GST has been doing. We've completed several podcast interviews with many of the training coordinators. And we've also been able to offer work keys remotely. The proctor is using Zoom to do that. The apprentice candidate has to get online in front of a camera, show their ID, and the proctor is sitting there the entire time and watching them through the camera. She just sends them an email with the requirements, like the Windows 10 and stuff. Usually, most of those calls are coming through me, and then I'll coordinate that test with the test proctor. And then I worked with the marketing team to create the apprentice brochure that was sent out to everybody. The goal behind this is that there's information out, and there's some wrong information out about what Michigan Works can do for an apprentice. So the goal with this brochure was actually giving the correct information to help. We are actively printing 10,000 of these brochures, and we'll be distributing them to all of the training coordinators where they can give them to apprentices as they're doing information sessions or classes.
And as an apprentice coordinator, you know, what we're doing in sharing that information with our apprentices, and this is the way I actually present the information to them, is, you know, we're asking you to participate in this. You know, we're not telling you, but we're asking you to sign up for this and see, do you actually qualify for help through WIOA? And this is to help you in your apprenticeship and to help you to succeed. And we want them to understand that there are resources available for them. And it has been, I tell you, it has been heartwarming to see all the help that they get and how excited they are that that help is actually available to help them to achieve their goals. So it's on a personal level, it's very rewarding. And we've enjoyed being a part of that.
And I just want to jump back up to the work keys testing to explain that a little bit more of how that's used as an expansion tool. So as candidates are calling me, I'm keeping track of everybody and what union they're testing for. And then my plan is to take that that list of names. Like, I know we've done a lot for the operating engineers and a lot for the plumbers and pipe fitters 370. So I'll be taking those lists and sending that to the training coordinators to see if any of those individuals were accepted into their apprenticeship program. Now, all of those candidates have already touched base with myself because I've done a service for them. And so I'll be able to reach out and talk to them a little bit more about what else we're able to offer.
One thing I'd like to mention is that, I guess, again, this is as a training coordinator, to those of you at GST Michigan Works, we have regular meetings. When I say we, the apprentice and training coordinators around the state of Michigan, we participate in the Michigan Apprenticeship Steering Committee and our members on that committee. And we get together often and share what's working, what isn't. This is what we're doing. What are you doing? And we try to stay abreast of what's going on around the state of Michigan and in regards to workforce development. And we share best practices amongst one another. And I saw a lot of questions on the chat about wanting Wanda's information, and that is very encouraging to myself, and I think I can speak for the rest of the training directors that are out there, that all of you would coordinate and try to get on the same page with apprenticeship and learn as much as you can about the apprentice providers in your area, registered apprenticeship providers in your area, so that we're all working together. And so, for example, I'm a training director for the entire state of Michigan. I've been talking back and forth privately in chat right now with Christy, and to get in touch with her after we're done with this Zoom, and begin to build a relationship. I don't know if you're on, if West Michigan Works is on, but we're doing a big push in West Michigan for apprentices, especially targeting veterans, but obviously we want to work with Michigan Works, and we're going to be reaching out to you very, very soon, probably Friday, about trying to establish a relationship with you as well. And we're wanting to bring on apprentices up in the Upper Peninsula, so Marquette and Escanaba. We're hoping to just kind of build off from what has been a great success with GST Michigan Works, and truly Wanda and her staff and Jody Curbison with GST Michigan Works, they've been truly very helpful in helping us to be successful. And we just want to proliferate that success around the state. So everybody being together and on the same page is going to help us to truly expand apprenticeship in the skilled trades.
Howard, this is Russ. Would you just expand, tell everybody about the success numbers you've had on your previous 3 cohorts, so the graduates, the number of minorities and diverse that you had? I think that's very important to what you and Wanda and GST have done.
Sure. So let me just say that obviously our relationship with Michigan Works has been for a while. I am on the Workforce Development Board as a labor rep, and for the last 5 years, we've had a pre-apprentice program for 5 years there, supported through the National Building Trades. And so this was not a dry run. When we went taking it to this next level of getting on the Training Connect, that relationship building had been going on for a long time. And in that pre-apprentice program, we've brought in, I want to correct me if I'm wrong, I think is it 85 participants so far, right around in there?
Yeah.
And we've had 85% placement, and in union skilled trades programs, and this is targeting minorities, women, unemployed, underemployed, and veterans, special pops. So highly successful. We want to do a whole lot more of that, and hopefully this language will get passed through the state of Michigan to acknowledge not only registered apprenticeship that's USDOL OA approved, but also pre-apprenticeship and apprentice readiness under program sponsors. And we can continue to expand this around the state. We're really excited.
Yeah.
So
Scott, do we have time for a couple questions?
So
or do you need to move on?
We're doing exactly what we gathered to do. I mean, that's the tough part, right? We're definitely behind schedule. We're kind of doing okay because we used our question time towards the end of the meeting, which we won't have as much time there, but the questions are pretty appropriate. So I would just ask both the presenters to just be real cautious when we answer, because the goal is to continue introducing labor directors and coordinators to Apprenticeship Success Coordinators in each region. And we want to have at least enough time to do that, because if we look at the chat, we can see that people are really trying to establish the connections that we know will do what Howard talked about, and that is continue that expansion, the awareness, and the relationship development. So we do want to have a chance to do that next. So let's take them, Kim, just really quickly.
Okay. Wanda, can you speak to what type of erroneous information has been shared about assistance available to apprentices?
Oh, yeah, that we help with purchasing new vehicles, that we help with rent payments. Those are the two big ones that stand out the most to me. So that's why I was really, this is probably something that I'm the most excited about, creating this brochure to give those facts.
You mean you don't pay for tuition and buying me a new car? Too bad.
Yeah.
All right, Howard, when you were talking about holding off on invoicing Michigan Works, how long are you holding off?
So, you know, we have a 12-week program. I wait till we're almost halfway through. It's 6 to 8 weeks because a lot shakes out in 6 to 8 weeks of, you know, it's one thing to show up for the first couple of weeks on time and do your job, you know, and be learning. But we treat that training center just like a job site. And now when you've got to show up every day, on time, not only on time, but early, and perform well and learn the curriculum, you know, you find out who's who, and then we wait, you know, that's why we wait.
And then that's great, thank you. We do have a reminder that the Trade Adjustment Assistance also supports training dollars, supplies, and supportive materials for apprenticeship. So we just want to throw that out there. Otherwise, we just have a bunch of requests for your presentation, Wanda. So if you want to send that to me, we can share it with our participants today.
And one more point, just to throw this out there because we're talking about TAA. What was really cool, and I was excited about it, we had a young man that was accepted into the apprenticeship program that came through Visions for Prosperity. And he was also eligible for youth dollars. And whichever signatory contractor he goes to is eligible to receive reimbursement for his wages for 6 weeks, which I thought was absolutely amazing. And there wasn't you know, a whole lot of strings attached to that. I know sometimes contractors are reluctant to sign up to receive those dollars sometimes because they have to guarantee a certain number of hours have to be worked every week. And with the youth dollars, that string was not attached to that. It wasn't dependent on hours. So it's a great windfall for employers too, to be, and kudos to GSC Michigan Works to be able to identify those opportunities. And I think the more you get employers involved as well, and they realize, you know, all these benefits are there to help their employees show up every day. It's just truly, you know, what they get to, you know, fix their vehicles and for work clothing and other things. This is truly, if I was an apprentice, again, I never got that kind of help, and to me, it's awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and another relationship that a partnership, I should say, that I started was with the Helmets to Hard Hats program. And so he is really good about referring veterans that are applying once we've gone back and forth and given information back and forth about veterans that have started in one of the apprenticeship programs. And he's very aware of all of because he didn't know, but now he does understand like all of the things that we can offer to an apprentice.
That's all the questions. We just want to say, great job, you guys. That's great information.
Thank you.
So we got several of those in the chat as well, and great note to end on. I mentioned up front that our next Apprenticeship Launch Network is going to be on veterans apprenticeship and engagement. We have several national initiatives as well. They've just recently assigned kind of a national veteran coordinators for people coming in from other states to oversee each region. And so there's going to be increased activity around connecting veterans with apprenticeship as well. So then we've got a panel discussion up next, and Russ and John Hartwell, who's career and outreach representative, operating engineers, local 324. Russ, so we'll try and do just what you planned. Our goal is just to keep it kind of as brief as possible, then we'll take our break.
Thanks, Scott. Good morning again, everyone. As you know, the core components, if you want to remember those, are there's 5 of them. We need to think that the 5 is apprenticeship or jobs, on-the-job learning in a work setting, job-related classroom training, learning with the help of a journey worker or a mentor, and all important industry recognized credential across the United States. And today, right now, we have some career outreach representatives, director of apprenticeships, state directors, training coordinators, business managers, and area coordinators for the construction trades. And I'm going to give each one of them 3 to 5 minutes to explain what a registered apprenticeship means to their organization. And so we want to keep it limited, but the first one I want to introduce is John Hartwell from the Operating Engineers, Local 324. He's the Career and Outreach Representative. John, you're on for 3 to 5.
Thank you, Russ. Well, thanks for having us here today, and thanks for everybody for throwing this piece together. So we're the Operating Engineers. We're a statewide organization. Our apprenticeship covers the UP and all of Southern Michigan. So we're in every county. We have locations for our training centers in Howell, Michigan, which is our largest training center at 555 acres. We have a program out of Detroit, Michigan, and we have our newest training facility, which is in Gladstone. So pretty well represented, pretty well covered. There's about 14,000 operating engineers in the state of Michigan. We are, again, this year, and I know I seem to say it every year, at a record number of apprentices. We're at an all-time high, even with going through a pandemic and all the issues that are out there. Construction's still going, and it is essential. So these careers are available. They're out there. They're real. We offer a number of apprenticeship programs. We do a hoisting program and a civil program, which is our heavy equipment operator program. You see us operating the equipment on bridges, road jobs, powerhouses, auto plants, pipelines. We're everywhere. Both of those programs are 6,000 hour, 600 hours of training, 200 per year done at our facilities. We also do a heavy equipment technician program. Somebody's got to fix all of the equipment, keep it up, maintained, ready to go. That's a 8,000 hour, 4-year program, so a little bit longer in length, but it's a program that's really going well, and we've got a lot of interest in it. Well, and we have programs out of our stationary program in Detroit, which are 4-year programs also for boiler technician and building maintenance, which are 4-year, 8,000 hour programs also. So a lot of opportunity, a lot of different pieces and parts going there. We do our applications online. You would need a valid Michigan driver's license, at least the age of 18 or 17 to apply for the program, and valid Michigan driver's license 17, high school diploma or GED, as well as WorkKeys test scores, which put us a little bit behind this year with Michigan Works and the pandemic and our community colleges. But we're back on track now with everybody up and running. So thank you for all your help on that at Michigan Works. I would also like to thank Christine for putting our information. Everybody's at the top of the chat. So it's downloadable for all the trades with their contacts. It's all in there. Please go to that, because the main part of our meeting, as Scott said, a good piece of it is to make this connection between the apprentice success coordinators and the training programs of our locals, our registered apprenticeship programs. There are a lot of programs that we've been working with statewide around the state. A lot of the Michigan Works Success Coordinators that we have been working with, I don't want to start naming names because I'll miss somebody, but we have also worked, as Howard mentioned, with Visions for Prosperity on the west side of the state, Access for All out of Detroit, Detroit Workforce of the Future. Helmets to Hard Hats has been a mainstay of the programs. So all of these pre-apprenticeship programs and entries into our program, I could definitely see more coordination with the Apprentice Success Coordinators. And Russ has given me hopefully a 1-minute sign, but I know that is a short explanation of our program, and that there's just a lot more information. And I'm glad that we could throw this meeting together and get this information and get the talk started. So if you need to reach us, we're operating engineers. Our website is oe324.org. There's a lot of good information there. And I'm John Hartwell, career and outreach representative for operating engineers. Thank you, Russ.
Thanks, John. To everybody, because of a time frame here, we're gonna just shorten this up because I did have some questions for all these gentlemen, and we're gonna tag that on to our next meeting, ALN .07. But my next, thanks, John, again, and our next gentleman will be Justin Palmerville. Justin is the UA Local 85 plumbers and steam fitters and HVAC trades technicians, business manager and financial secretary from Saginaw. Justin?
Thanks, Russ. Appreciate the opportunity. Like Russ said, my name's Justin Palmerville. I'm the business manager, financial secretary of Local 85. We represent the northern 29.5 counties of the Lower Peninsula. So the half county being Huron, where everything lying west of M53, all the way to the Mackinac Bridge, Traverse City across to Alpena. So we got a pretty broad area. Like John Hartwell said, they got the whole state. I only get 29.5 of the counties. So we're about 1,250 members, give or take, just north of that total. Currently, we have 200 apprentices. Our apprenticeship, we accept applications year round, online or in person. So we're open continuously to accept applications, and pretty much the same standards as John mentioned. We also have a high school diploma, GED or equivalent. We use the ACT work keys with 4s or higher as the standard. For our apprenticeship committee, we're DOL registered with Russ, came in and wrote our standards about 10 years ago, I think now. So we're 8,900 work hours, 1,080 school hours, and a 5-year apprenticeship. So, and that's probably my phone ringing. Sorry about that. That's why I got to get off of here. That's why you bumped me up. I apologize. So it's been going off since I got on here. But so 1,080 school hours, 8,900 work hours, a 5-year apprenticeship program. And we partner with the Saginaw Career Complex here in Saginaw, which pulls from all the surrounding schools. I actually have 2 of my members that teach their welding program. So that's been a great partnership and a great pull, but we're always looking for opportunity to get to the young people that are out there interested in the trades. And as Howard said, we're involved in pretty much all the same programs everybody's going to speak on today. So I appreciate the time, and I'll cut it short.
We appreciate it, Justin, for the information, and we look forward to having you on the next one, and so I can share some of these hard questions for you. So thank you.
Thank you.
Our next guest is Scott Mcdonald. Scott's the Director of Apprenticeship for the Michigan Laborers and Training Apprenticeship Institute from Perry, Michigan. So Scott, you're on.
Thanks, Russ, and thanks for having us today. Our program's a little different.
Can anybody else hear Scott?
My
Oh,
computer.
Scott, you're frozen.
We didn't even mean to put the freezer on there.
Uh-oh.
Yep, he's frozen.
Wasn't that a football player? Okay. Scott, where are you at? Well,
He had some trouble coming in, Russ, so we might want to bump to the next one and pick up when he can rejoin.
Okay, let's try this again. We're going to try the Michigan statewide Carpenters Millwrights State Director Todd Sandy. Todd, are you with us?
Yeah, Russ, I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Go ahead. You're looking
All right.
great.
All right. Thank you all for allowing me
You're
some
in a
time
new
to talk
facility,
about our
I can
program.
tell.
Ours is a 4-year program that services the training needs for carpenters, floor layers, millwrights, and cabinet makers. We have 6 training centers across the state of Michigan. We have a training center in Saginaw that services carpenters training, another one in Grayling for carpenters. And then on the west side of the state, we've got our one of our newest training centers in Wayland. That's where I'm at. You see that in the background here. And in Wayland, we do the 3 trades that are our primary trades, which is carpenters, floor layers, and millwrights. And in Marquette, we train carpenters and millwrights. And on the east side of the state, we have the Warren Institute of Millwright Institute of Technology. And we also have the training center in Ferndale that trains for carpenters, floor layers, and cabinet makers. And they will soon be moving into a new facility in Detroit. We're setting steel right now on the building. It's 145,000 square feet. And both our millwrights and our carpenters and floor layers will move to that facility about a year from now. So we're very excited about that. So again, it's a 4-year program. Most of our training is done on a 2-week rotation, so that students would be in school for an 8-hour day every 2 weeks. And then with a slight exception, our millwrights on the west side and our carpenters and millwrights train in a block training, a 1-week format. So those that train in the a 2-week format, their contractors pay them for their school day. So their regular wage for the 8 hours that they're there in school, the contractor picks that up. We have
Oh no.
because of
It's a
COVID,
curse.
transition to an online application process. MRCC APP to 855-424-2562. That's how you get, you're putting in a request for an application. And then it goes out to the training center that you specify that you want to train in and the particular craft that you're hoping to participate in. And they will send you the application. And then once it gets returned, we do the work keys math test and the interview process. And in the interview, we do a direct interview for anybody coming from helmets to hard hat, from Job Corps, any of the apprentice readiness organizations that have been previously mentioned, Access for All, Visions for Prosperity, WIST, which is Women in Skilled Trades. We will make sure that anyone with a completion of certificate of completion from those programs gets an interview. Still pass or fail, and then sink or swim once they get in the program like anyone else. But it's a leg up to get them into our program. And that is about all I have to share today. And thank you for your time.
Thanks, Todd. And for everybody, you've got a list of all these presenters today. ASCs and anybody, if you have not had an opportunity, not just because I'm looking at Todd right now, take a time to go to these training coordinators and go through it. They've got a beautiful facility there in New Wayland, but the operating engineers, in all of them, and I think you should go there so you can look at what the apprentices actually do in their classes and get to know them a little better. But with that, our next speaker guest is Matt Raja. Matt is a Ironworkers Local 25 Training Center in Wixom. So Matt, you're on.
So Russ, I believe Matt had to go put some fires out, so he's unavailable at the moment.
Okay, then we're going to move right to the next one, who is Matt O'Rourke. Matt is a sheet metal and workers from I think it's Local 80 Joint Training Center in Detroit. And Matt, are you with us?
I am. Can you hear me?
We can. Good morning,
Excellent.
Matt.
I can relate to Matt Raja. This is my first conference in my office, and it's not going anywhere near as well as I thought it would. So should have stayed home today, I think.
You're doing well.
Thanks a lot for having me, and it's good to see everybody. It's been a while since I've seen a lot of you guys. So, and it's been a while since I've gone through my spiel about our apprenticeship program. So bear with me. I will do what I can to make it short. So it was good news that we're short on time. We are sheet metal workers. Local 80 covers the jurisdiction of Metro Detroit. So it's Wayne, Oakland, Macomb, St. Clair, Sanilac, and Washtenaw counties. Typical work zone is from Ann Arbor as far up to Port and anywhere in between. So I have a local that covers the same jurisdiction, Local 292, that works specifically in industrial sheet metal. So it's heavier gauge, mostly in the auto plants. Local 7 covers the rest of the state, and they cover it in 4 different zones. They have training centers throughout the state. Our training centers in Warren, Michigan. 292s is in Troy, just a couple miles away. We have, for Local 80, we have 2 different apprenticeship programs. Our main program is the building trades program. So as sheet metal workers, we deal mainly in HVAC or architectural sheet metal. We do some custom sheet metal work, kitchen equipment, stuff like that. But it's mainly HVAC and architectural sheet metal. HVAC is all aspects of it. We build all of our own ductwork. We install all of our own ductwork. We create plans and blueprints for job sites on using computer-aided design. We have HVAC technicians and testing, adjusting, and balancing technicians that will go out and problem solve and troubleshoot, make sure that the systems are working up to engineered standards. So we have a lot of different aspects of our HVAC that fit a lot of different skill sets. Some are computer-based, some are technicians, some are installers, fabricators, and they're all different, they are different skill sets. Architectural sheet metal work is all on the outsides of buildings, and it's the metal that covers the outside of a building that diverts water from getting inside. It could be gutters and coping. It could be metal wall panels or standing seam roofs. And so that's basically what we do as sheet metal workers. And the building trades program, which is our main program, we train in all aspects of that. And when you graduate after our 5-year program, you're eligible to do any of those parts of the trade. There's about 200 apprentices currently in the building trades program. And like I said, it's a 5-year program. Our other program is a 4-year program specifically for architectural sheet metal. And they, the structure of the schooling is a little bit different, but it's a 4-year program in total. And so we have two different programs out of the same building. Let's see, our tests are in January and July. The test is to get into the building trades program, the main program, and we test the 4th week of January, the 4th week of July. We take applications year round by appointment. So they have to call the school, make an appointment, and when they come in, they'll need to present their high school diploma or GED and a valid driver's license. And of course, we do drug tests before we bring them in. And I think that's about it. If there's obviously there's no questions, so I think that's all I got.
Thanks, Matt. But
yeah, thank you.
And we're going to have questions for you in the next round. So thank you.
Sounds good.
Our next guest, who you've already heard from a little bit today, though, is Howard Hypes, who's a bricklayer and Allies Craft Apprenticeship Training Coordinator. Howard, are you there?
I'm here, and I'll make it brief. I'm sure everybody's heard me enough already. For those of you that are getting, I think Wanda's PowerPoint's going to be going out. And fortunately for me, all of my information is on one of the slides. And you feel free to print that out. But we are statewide as well. We have 2 training centers under BAC Local 2, one in Warren, Michigan, and the other in Lansing. I train for all of outstate Michigan except Detroit. And with the permission and help of the operating engineers. We train at their facility from time to time in Gladstone as well. That's been a wonderful arrangement, and we're very appreciative of that. So we take applications year round. I know everybody wants to be a bricklayer, but they just don't know it. And so we don't always get enough applications. We actually are training 60 to 80 apprentices a year at a minimum in Lansing and Warren as well. So there's a lot of room for applicants to apply. We have just a lot going. We've got just more than one craft. It's bricklayers, which is brick, block, and stone. Also tile, marble, terrazzo, and then masonry restoration, which is our pointer, cleaner, and caulker designation. And then we also train for refractory bricklayers. They work in kilns and lay mainly refractory materials. We do work in Alpena and really all over the state of Michigan, repairing refractory kilns. Up in the UP, there's a lot of refractory work. And that's what they do when they're not hunting or fishing. Up in the UP, they work in refractory, make a boatload of money, and then they go fishing. So, you know, construction, you know, sounds bad, but it's actually pretty good many times. And we also have plasterers and as also a part of our local. So we have lots of training opportunities. And, you know, I know Todd already talked about it, but just so that the Michigan Works folks know, most of our crafts, you know, there are so many avenues that are available. You know, even with the carpenters, you've got millwrights and you've got carpenters, and then within the carpenters, so many opportunities. There's no just one path to construction. So, but all my information's on there. We take apps year round at michiganbricklayers.org, and my information's on there as well if anyone needs to contact me directly. Thank you.
Thanks, Howard. Appreciate the information. And again, like Howard said, the avenues for all the journey workers for all these crafts, especially if you go back to a community college, get your gen eds, get a 2-year degree, and continue on for those that want to get a 4-year degree. Lots of opportunities. The next guest we have is Ron McKay. He's from the area coordinator for the National Elevator Industry and Educational Program, Local 36. Ron, are you there? Okay. I don't hear or see Ron. So I'm going to move on to our next guest, who we saw his classroom a little bit today, Rick Mason. He's the Flint Saginaw Electrical JATC training director and instructor. Rick, are you there?
Yep, I'm sure here.
Hey, there you go.
Yep, you got one.
Okay.
I have a hard line connection too, so hopefully I won't be freezing up on you. I'm going to attempt to do a little screen share with you guys here, if everybody can see that. So my name's Rick Mason. I'm training director from Flint Saginaw Electrical JATC. I'm the director for 2 of the 12 inside construction apprenticeship programs that are in the state of Michigan. Now, we are all independent apprenticeships that operate under the same umbrella. And so if you would like to go through and get specific information on application requirements, you can go to this website here. It's called electricaltrainingalliance.org. And they have a apprenticeship locator that you can go through and you can take a look and get contact information for your local apprenticeship on there. So this would be our information. You can go through and click on it and take a look at them. Now, what ends up happening is with our application process, like I said, they can be different from, you know, program to program. Now, we do offer voice data video, residential, inside, which would be your general construction, and then there's also outside line programs. And you can go to this same website to take a look and see where your line program would be. Now we're in the LBAT section here. They handle most of the Great Lakes. And so some of the difference you may have with these applications is some of them have application windows. In Flint and Saginaw here, we do take the applications year round, but some of them do have particular periods of time. 17 years old, high school graduates, have to have passing algebra grade, valid driver's license. Once you have those items in place, we sit everybody down for an aptitude test. The aptitude test qualifies you for the interview. And then with the actual interview system, we sit down our apprentices in front of a panel. They score them, rank them, and then the committee comes in and says, okay, we need the top 15, 20, whatever that number may be. So probably about 85 to 90% of our apprentices are in the inside construction portion of the apprenticeship, which is a 5-year program, 8,000 hours with 180 classroom hours. Per year, actually, I'm sorry, it's 8,000 hours with a total of 900 through the 5-year program. Once an apprentice is done, they do have to receive a Michigan journeyman's license, but once they're done, they're all set and ready to go. So I don't know, trying to make it quick for you. But yeah, that's about it. Stop the screen share there and go to the next.
Well, we appreciate the information, Rick, and your screen sharing. Keep your calendar open there because for October, I think 22nd, for our next meeting, where we'll have a couple of 2 or 3 questions for you. So thanks again, Rick.
Absolutely.
I want to jump back to see if we can unfreeze Scott Mcdonald again. Scott, you there?
Yeah. Yes, I am. I apologize. The error was on my end. I had to bring in IT twice on this call. I consider myself pretty proficient at this stuff, and apparently I'm wrong. Anyway, we are the construction craft laborers. In terms of what we do, we probably do the widest variety of different tasks on large-scale construction projects. We build highways, bridges, stadiums, power plants. We do environmental work. Asbestos abatement cleanup, hazardous waste remediation, lead-based paint abatement. Our apprenticeship program is 4,000 working hours, and over that time they have to achieve 300 training hours with me. A couple of things that separate us from some of the other trades is you don't need a high school diploma to come into the laborers. Now we're gonna encourage our members, our apprentices, to get that diploma or GED once they come into our program, because we carry college credits, as do most or all of the other trades, and they can't take advantage of that if they don't get that GED. We did think about it back in the 90s when we created this program of requiring a high school diploma, but a lot of our contractors, decided that they already have a lot of laborers on their job that don't have diplomas or GEDs, and they're good quality people. So anyway, there is an opportunity with us for those people who haven't achieved that yet, and of course we're going to encourage that once they come in. The other way that we're different is we don't accept applications. We're almost exclusively direct entry. We call it intent to hire. We may be applying our own definition to that term, but basically what would happen is somebody who's interested, or somebody maybe we've recruited at career fairs or so forth, would contact me. I would put them in touch with the local union hall, and we would try to team them up with a contractor that has a need, and they would get their shot. We also encourage interested people to seek their own work with employers. And once they get hired by a signatory employer, they're automatically indentured into our program. As you may have guessed, that creates a lot of turnover because a lot of people come into the trades who don't really know what to expect. They don't know the physicality of the work, what it requires. So we do have a high turnover rate. What I like in an application and selection procedure, it would be nice to have that screening component. We have worked with GST in the past and had them do some screening for us, and that was incredibly successful, and we would do that again in a heartbeat for different programs. Let's see, with that, I guess I don't want to run on too long. If anybody has any questions, obviously put them in the chat section, but I'll kick it back to Scott or Russ, and we'll go from there.
Thanks, Scott. You know, Scott, when you froze up there, I thought maybe I was going to get a sports announcement. The Lions got a new coach or something froze over and the Tigers were going into the playoffs. Then you came back. So
no, we're in deer hunting mode now, Russ. You know that. Okay. That's all that's going on.
Okay. So Scott, again, and for everybody that presented, I think I've got through everybody except Ron McKay, and I don't know if Ron is on or not. And so again, keep your calendars open for our next one because great conversation. We've done these prior to the COVID. We are going around the state a little bit in front of groups, and then we ask questions afterwards. I added a few comments, and so good information for everybody. Again, everybody on this virtual conference day, if you have an opportunity to reach out to any of these coordinators, business managers, and stop in and just take a tour, it's really valuable to you and to share with potential sponsors and to your students or potential apprentices. Scott, I think, I hope I got us back on track a little bit. And so we'll finish up this discussion on our next call. And thanks, John.
Yeah, Russ, thank you. And thank you each for being brief. So we actually earned our next break here, and we'll follow last break's tradition of 9 minutes instead of 10. And I'll set the timer, and then we will meet our Apprenticeship Success Coordinators. Kevin Chow, you're on deck here to facilitate that coming up next. Thanks. Okay, so Christy, those are excellent concerns, and I appreciate that you bring them up and add some of the reality, right, to the challenges of the work, because that is part of the challenge. And a couple of things that come to mind right away are that one is this sharing is great because it brings that kind of thinking to the table and that kind of reality that, you know, not everybody's like on board yet. However, I think we can help because I think we had presented kind of halfway through that quick overview of the plan that there's going to be a state level advisory board for apprenticeship. And I think in that group, MWAs will be involved at a leadership level. And I think that will help getting communication throughout the state. And then I also know that several of our initiatives, right, this is pretty new, right? If we'd have seen that, we wouldn't have seen this a couple of years ago. So I think we're involved in a change activity, and as we're trying to expand, we're also trying to improve the relationships, the understanding. And I think it has to happen at every level. So I feel like we can help to influence leadership overall to make sure that we're also all thinking alike about what can work and what can't work. And I hope you find that, not tomorrow, but I hope you find that that alleviates some of that pressure saying, nope, we don't do it that way, right?
Thank you, Scott.
You're welcome.
And Wanda too for your input.
Yep, you're welcome. So, so we had a break. Russ and team, labor, thank you so much for working hard to get us back close to on track. We'll continue in that same mode so that we can keep moving pretty quickly. And then we are at the point where Kevin Chow is going to join us and facilitate a similar discussion with our Apprenticeship Success Coordinators, introductions to our labor partners. Take it away, Kevin, please.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Scott. So it's in our session to share a little bit more of our local partners with Mission Works agencies, Apprenticeship Success Coordinators. So I am going to go through a list of all 16, and hopefully we have a representative from each organization, and we're going to ask you to share, your name, where do you serve, and then also, your current apprenticeship partnerships, and perhaps a success story if it's available. It's gonna be really tight because of our time frame, so maybe like 2 or 3 minutes. So I guess you're gonna have to speak really fast. So, but we'll start it right now. So we'll go first up is Capital Area Michigan Works. How about Jay Lanou?
Good morning, everyone. Jay Lanou, Capital Area Michigan Works. We cover the counties of Ingham, Eaton, and Clinton. And just want to say appreciate all the information this morning. All the questions that really fall in line with what we're asking here in our area. We've had great partnerships. A lot of them are on this event today, particularly through our Women in Skilled Trades program. We've partnered with the laborers, the carpenters, sheet metal workers, bricklayers, electricians, operators, and I just want to say they've been really gracious with their time. Through our pre-apprenticeship program, Women in Skilled Trades, we do field trips, and one of the most rewarding things that I do is join in on those field trips, and we get to watch our participants use equipment and do hands-on activities that they may not have thought they could do in the past. And so that's really rewarding. We've done 3 cohorts, 26 participants so far. 12 of them have been entered into registered apprenticeships with the trade union partners. So that's really positive. I think a couple of them have decided not to pursue it further, which, I think most would agree that's fine if they're not 100% into it. But again, great partnerships, also USDOL, Leo, just appreciate all of the assistance and work that you do with us.
Cool, thank you, Jay. All right, so next up is the Detroit Employment Solutions Corporation, DESC, Stephanie Bambolakis.
Hi, everybody. I wasn't expecting to be on camera today, so you're getting my natural glow. My name is Stephanie Bambolakis, as Kevin said. I'm the Apprenticeship Coordinator for Detroit. I know I've met many of you and have worked with you. I feel like a big program that we are in support of is Access for All, which is an apprenticeship readiness training. Did I get that right, Lee? Yeah, apprenticeship readiness. And I think lately we've been trying to get creative with how we can support the trades. And most recently, as of 2 weeks ago, in partnership with Ford and Crispin Construction, and I've been working really closely with Pat Devlin, we are running a 4-month work site experience and exposure for Access for All graduates and referrals directly from our union partners to do multiple trades on the train station in Detroit. And so we launched the cohort 2 weeks ago, and wages are being paid, and in partnership with HRDI, and I know they've changed their name, everything's on track. And so our goal is to create a direct onboard into getting these candidates at least interviewed for the apprenticeships. So we're getting them exposure in front of the contractors to kind of show them what you got, hopefully over the course of the 4 months, because that was some feedback that we got internally from our employers. And so, definitely we're open to partnerships. And so for our Detroit reps, so I also work behind the scenes with CREO to make sure that our step agreements are fair and aligned with everyone's goals. So there's always a lot going on in Detroit, and I'm hoping to be a resource for everyone and to be able to streamline things. And I'm here if you have any questions.
Cool. Thank you, Stephanie. Okay. And next up is Great Lakes Bay Michigan Works. How about Cheryl Tarrant?
Hi, I'm Cheryl Tarrant. I'm with Great Lakes Bay Michigan Works. I'm the Apprenticeship Success Coordinator here, and I also run all of our BST programs, so we're working pretty hard to assist our employers with starting new apprenticeships. Apprenticeships is a difficult thing up here. I represent Bay, Midland, Saginaw, and Isabella and Gratiot counties. So you are either pro apprenticeship or you are not here. So we are really trying hard to make to make these connections, to change perceptions of apprenticeships in our region. Going pro has been an incredible asset to us to be able to do those types of introductions. And working with Mary Beth has just been absolutely wonderful. We enjoy all the help she has been able to give us also. So, hey, I don't have a whole lot of successes. Let's just say successes. I'm still here. We're healthy. We're doing well. And we're still moving forward.
Thank you, Cheryl. Okay, next up is somebody you haven't heard from, is GST Michigan Works, Wanda Bigelow.
Hi again. So I cover Genesee, Lapeer, Shiawassee, Sanilac, Tuscola, and Huron counties. And I've highlighted a lot of the things that I feel like have been successful for us, so I don't have to go over that again.
Cool, thanks, Wanda. And next up is Michigan Works Buren Cass Van Buren. I see a whole class.
Good morning. So we have a little bit of a group here. Rick Van Edersum, Aaron Venno, and Kelly Wilson on the call. Over the last couple of years, we've really focused on a couple of things, really solidifying our relationships in skilled trades and advanced manufacturing. We're really lucky to have a great partnership with Lake Michigan College with our pre-apprenticeship program, which is, I'll talk about a quick success story there. Even through COVID, we were able to do a cohort this summer that was divvied up, and so they were able to do some in person and some virtually. And so that worked out really well, where we had everybody is gone through, and they're actually entering their registered apprenticeship programs on October 1st. So we're really excited for that. But another big focus has been our healthcare apprenticeships. Over the last year, we are now the sponsors of 2 different healthcare apprenticeships in certified nursing assistant and patient care assistants. And those are, they were moving along really smoothly until this thing happened in March, and then came to kind of a crashing halt. But we have started back up again, and in the month of September have 13 new apprentices enrolled, and so things are kicking along really well. And in fact, we are in conversations to add our 3rd occupation, medical assistant, which is another great way for us to show that healthcare can, you can start from square one and work your way up that career pathway, which is what we've really wanted to do. So it's super exciting to be a part of that. And moving forward, I think that those are 2 really big sectors that we're focusing on, just simply because of our, the breakdown of where our county lies. But always on the lookout for new and innovative things to do. And a big focus, I think, coming up for us is going to be underrepresented populations. Oh, and we cover Berrien, Cass, and Van Buren.
Yes, you do. Thank you very much for sharing that.
Thank you.
Okay, and next we're going to go with Michigan Works Macomb St. Clair, Chrissy Kabasinski.
I'm going to let Jen Taylor say hi first.
Good morning. Hopefully everybody can hear me. Hopefully my unmute worked. I am new to the team. So thank you, everybody. The information that's been presented so far has been very helpful. And I look forward to learning more. Christy?
Thanks. We cover Macomb County and St. Clair County. Our biggest success at this point is we created a Apprenticeship 101 kit that we were able to make 100 copies of them. Unfortunately, timing and COVID really sucked because they were made for doing things in person. Each kit was distributed throughout the state. The majority of them stayed in Macomb and St. Clair due to our funding, but we hope that at some point they will get back into use. We're looking forward to trying to work with our MISD in our counties to, our ISDs in the counties to do a youth apprenticeship grant. We have those meetings scheduled and we're ready to roll. We're familiar with a lot of the building trades programs. We have done a couple support services for millwright candidates, just trying to get a process in place for our staff and how we can move forward. Funding is not always that easy, and I had a sidebar with Scott and Wanda a few minutes ago during the break, and I'm not sure who sat in or not, or who heard, but one of the things that I shared with Scott is sometimes it's challenging because we hear about great things that are going on in the state in one area, and that's working with their board and administration, and the challenges that not everybody has the availability to provide some services in some areas and not in others. So thanks for your time, you guys. I love my work with apprenticeships, and I'm really excited about as we move forward and build more and more and better relationships. Thanks.
Hey, thank you, Chrissy. All right, next up is Michigan Works Northeast, Colin Hoffmeyer. I think Colin may be absent for our event today, so I'll go to our next partner, Michigan Works Region 7B, Pam O'Laughlin or Natasha Allen.
Pam O'Laughlin, hopefully you can hear me. It looks like my mute came off. I've been an Apprenticeship Success Coordinator for almost a year, and have just kind of started to make a little bit of headway in regards to getting some apprenticeship agreements set up with employers, and we got a trades readiness certification program finally kicked off the ground. It was supposed to start in March, but it got delayed because of COVID. Very excited that we finally got that moving forward. I've basically been working on mostly relationship building with a variety of partners, potential partners, and just looking forward to moving things forward. I appreciate the information that was shared today, and especially some of the great programs that people have been put together. I think that there's a lot of value in not reinventing the wheel, and I like to think outside the box, but I certainly want to take advantage of some of the things that have already been tried and have been successful. So I appreciate everybody sharing them. And with that, that's all I got.
Okay, thank you, Pam. All right, next up is Michigan Works Southwest. I see Ashley or Amy Myers.
Yep. Hi, everyone. My name is Ashley Iovino, and I'm with Michigan Works Southwest. Excuse me. We serve counties of Branch, Calhoun, St. Joseph, and Kalamazoo. I actually share this role. I work more in the front line with apprenticeships, and Amy Myers works more with the admin side and all of the wonderful reports and paperwork. So we have a lot that happens within apprenticeships locally here. So we have weaved apprenticeships into our business services model. So when my team is out talking with employers, they're always, having that at the forefront and as an option and solution for them. Just one of the quick things to highlight, we're now in a third cohort. We're getting ready for a third cohort with Visions for Prosperity, which is a pre-apprenticeship program in the construction trades. So we're really excited about that. We've been able to do one in Kalamazoo, one in Battle Creek, and now this third one here is, we're in the recruitment stage for that right now to be able to launch in October. So, we've ran into just some delays with it, but it's a really great successful program. So that's just one of the projects to highlight, but there's certainly lots always happening with apprenticeships.
Thank you, Ashley. Okay, next up is Michigan Works West Central, Mary Bennett.
Hi, Kevin. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great, thanks. Yes, my name's Mary Bennett. I'm the Business Services Director and the Apprenticeship Success Coordinator with Michigan Works West Central. We cover Lake, Mason, Mecosta, Newaygo, Oceana, and Osceola counties. We are very rural in nature. I think probably the two quick biggest successes I have is we've done some restructuring in our business services department. So Julie Sanders, who is on the call, is going to become our apprenticeship expert, and I'm very, very excited to have her help. And the second biggest success would be that we finally are beginning to train our case managers on apprenticeships and WIOA. So the information that Wanda shared today has been so beneficial. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mary. Okay, next up is Michigan Works Northwest, Evelyn Split.
Hi, everyone. It's great to see you today. I am Evelyn Split, and I am the ASC for Northwest Michigan Works, and we do cover 10 counties. I also manage the BRN program. So some of our biggest successes this past year include the braided funding that we are able to offer. We stack funds with our BRN dollars as well as WIOA and the apprenticeship grants. I'm very pleased that we have 2 new team members, so that is a huge benefit to us. And another big success with that is that they are cross-training. So they will be enrolling our apprenticeship or our apprentices in registered apprenticeship as well as WIOA at the same time. And we are conducting those enrollments right at the job site, so it's very seamless to the apprentices. This helps us reduce paperwork as well as kind of the strain that's on the apprentices to get into the office or meet with a career advisor separately. We have 1 case manager for that apprentice all the way through the program. Some of the other successes is that our team is able to achieve a lot of non-traditional apprenticeships in our region, and very excited to announce that our beekeepers are going to graduate this year. And I know a lot of you have heard about that over the many, many years, but that is very exciting. And I just want to say that we're very pleased to be an intermediary and sponsor for our employers, and we've seen a huge growth rate in apprenticeships and the interest in apprenticeships across our region because of that. So thank you. And Tina and Brian, do you want to just introduce yourselves?
Hi, yeah, my name is Brian. So I've been on the team for about the last 6 months, just started as we went into the shutdown. And it's been really exciting just to see all the different employers that we work with. We're working with a couple of HVAC employers right now, but we also have a winemaker and a culinary program. I mean, the list just goes on, and it's just exciting to work very closely with the apprentices, but also the employers, and try to help them through this trying time.
Hi, I'm Tina Holden. I'm at the Manistee Michigan Works office, and I cover Benzie, Kalkaska, Manistee, Wexford, and Missaukee counties. And we are just very busy right now developing apprenticeships for all our employers in the region.
And I should mention thank you to everyone at LEO and the DOL for your great partnerships, plus all of our other ASC partners. It's really wonderful to work with all of you. Just wanted to mention too, because I know Mary is on the phone, we have initiated a Northern Regional Registered Apprenticeship Alliance. So we are going to be having our first presentation in October. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Evelyn, Brian, and Tina. Okay. All right, so next up is Oakland County Michigan Works, Liz Rivard-Weston.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin. Hi, everybody. I hope everyone's doing well. So as Kevin said, I am from Oakland County Michigan Works, so we're the only single county left, so I just cover Oakland. And in terms of activity, we a couple of years ago we had formed a relationship with Henry Ford Health Systems and helped them register a certified like medical assistant apprenticeship program, and just now they're actually starting their 4th cohort. So through all the cohorts, we've been able to use WIOA funding to offset the costs through OJT and through supportive services. So with our 4th cohort, you know, we just got done enrolling them and figuring out what supportive services they need in order to be successful in starting this particular program. So I'm happy to be able to report that. In terms of other activities, a lot of it's been delayed because of COVID, but we are looking at, well, actually I recently met with Wanda and Howard. We're looking at starting some sort of apprenticeship readiness program. So I really appreciate, you know, them sharing their successes with their program up in the GST region. And we're also looking at starting a regional, I don't even know what we'd call it yet, but a regional kind of committee or a partnership where the folks in Oakland County that are invested in apprenticeship programs and either providing like training or funding, something like that, to make sure that we're all working together so we're not duplicating services, and just so there can be more of like a seamless path for companies to follow when they're interested in registering a program, because there are a lot of services in the Southeast Michigan region. So we just want to make sure, like I said, that we're not duplicating services and that we're all working together in order to best serve the companies. So thanks, Kevin.
Okay, thanks, Liz. Thank you for your remarks. Okay, next up is Southeast Michigan Community Alliance. Is Lori Spicer on a call? All right, she may not be with us on this conference. How about Michigan Works Southeast, Steve Billington? Okay, then we can go to Upper Peninsula Michigan Works, Holly Peoples.
Hi, thanks, Kevin. So a few things that we have going on. Well, first of all, this is Holly Peoples, and we cover the whole Upper Peninsula, so we have 15 counties. And currently some of the things we're working on is planning for virtual events for National Apprenticeship Week. We're having meetings with the chair of our CAC, our Career Education Advisory Council, to talk about expanding that membership so we can embed the regional implementation consortia within that effort, planning, looking ahead for the RFPs that we will be seeing in the fall or winter. We're hearing now that there is some funding coming for Going Pro, so we're circling back with our organized labor unions who had done Going Pro industry-led collaboratives, so we can kind of position them to be ready for those application processes. We have joined the group that Evelyn mentioned, the Northern Michigan Registered Apprenticeship Consortium or something. I'm not exactly sure the name yet. We have that first meeting next week. And then we are continuing to try to work through the documentation requirements for the OSMIS data entry under policy 2004. So that's still a hot topic for us. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Holly. Okay, I know that Kelly is off today, but I just want to check if there is a representative from West Michigan Works. Kelly Terpster is the AASC at West Michigan Works, but she shared that she is unavailable. Is there anyone from West Michigan Works? Okay, so I just want to also, let everyone know that as part of our materials for this conference, it includes contact information of our labor trade training directors, along with the Michigan Apprenticeship Resource Directory, which provides information of all MWA ASC contact information, along with the ATR that each ASC works with. So, and that document is obviously would be valuable for our training directors to take a look at. And then, obviously we can have the opportunity to connect and then build the relationships at what we're doing. So that's about it. So I'm going to, transfer this over to Scott. By the way, Scott, you're like the host with the most. You're doing such a great job. I'm not sure if, we should ever change that. So anyway, back to you, sir.
Well, thank you so much, Kevin, for the kind words. And it occurred to me as you were complimenting me that you did nominate me for this position. So I appreciate your support. Okay, so I will share my screen because it seems like the right thing to do, and I'm getting better at figuring out how it happens. And we actually are back on track and doing pretty well. So we are looking at our schedule. Unless I missed something, Kevin, you'd have to let me know if you think I did. I tried to capture everything on the agenda into the PowerPoint. And I'm just checking the chat. Kim, do we have questions?
We do have, well, I don't know if this is a question we can answer now, but there is a question from Evelyn saying, could we create a crosswalk of WIOA RA opportunities, including braiding, funding, credentialing, etc.?
Crosswalk of WIOA opportunities. Okay, so I don't know if I understand the question. So can the asker explain more, please?
Sure. I was just kind of wondering, you know, as we do the WIOA enrollments and we enter the apprenticeships on PMTC, if we have kind of a crosswalk of what that credential would look like, or what would be an approved credential. I mean, we kind of touched base on whether or not OSHA was today. We found out, no, that's not going to work for WIOA. And maybe that would help us, you know, kind of have a framework. And how, you know, kind of like the process, like a process guide or just a process map of what that looks like, what those credentials are that are acceptable, so that when we have those longer term apprenticeships, we can kind of narrow down on that. And maybe someone already has done that, but I wasn't sure.
Okay, great question. So has anybody done that? Is a pretty good question. When you say anybody, do you mean another works agency?
Yeah,
Yeah.
or yeah, how we can make sure that we are getting that credential, so for those longer term apprenticeships, but kind of earlier in the program.
I think that's something, this is Christy, I think that's something that we need to get from, you know, the WIOA people, because they're the ones that are going to accept a credential or they're not going to accept a credential. And it could be detrimental to the Michigan Works Agency if you go through and you register 10 people under a program, and then the credential that they get that you think is good is not acceptable by the powers that be in WIOA. So that's what I was talking about earlier when I jumped in.
So our original session that we had with labor managers, directors, and coordinators that resulted in this session was the initial steps in documenting lots of the activities in related instruction and on-job learning that take place in many of the apprenticeships that were mentioned this morning. And so we had met, we went through, we created kind of a chart of all of those, and then at the same time did sort of the walkthrough of the interface that was changing to Training Connect that was actually presented this morning. And so that's kind of the activity that this group had originally started with. And we didn't completely interrupt it, but we sort of interrupted a little bit that process because the labor training directors, coordinators, managers that were at the session were saying, I've got an Apprenticeship Success Coordinator in some of my areas that I've never met. And that's kind of how this whole meeting came about, was we need to connect you. And that's why I think we waited longer than we might have should have to try to pull everybody together in, you know, a real meeting, right? We thought, well, it's going to be best if you really get to develop a relationship. But it occurs to me today that you're also talented at not only the relationship development, but also at what you do, right? And trying to see how the pieces fit together, that this is going to be an alternate, really good way to start, jumpstart these partnerships necessary for the expansion to continue. And I think part of this activity will be just the discussion you're talking about, where it's like, okay, what are next steps with each of these, I'll call them certificates that reside within the programs, validating whether or not they make sense. Kevin, can you remind me, did we go any farther with that list, or we still have that list put together? And actually, we didn't have it ready for today's meeting, but we kind of got lost in the, we need to get everybody together, do introductions, give GST a chance to present.
Yeah, I think like we'll have to kind of like circle back around that, and then kind of share it maybe during our bi-monthly conference call with the MWASCs and Russ's team and stuff.
Yeah, it occurs to me that that may be one of our action items that is sort of on pause, and was on pause coming into middle of March, right? As we were trying to figure out when to set this meeting up. So good comment though.
Russ.
Go ahead. Yep.
That might be if Evelyn can put that in a question or a statement, that I would like to run to take that up to regional office and onto DC for clarification, because as we are getting this new grant money, WIOLA funding, making sure that we are doing everything right. We're not double dipping in how that, and maybe give us some guidance on it. That's just an idea. But I think that Chicago may be able to help us here a little bit. Well, I've got the floor for just a second. I forgot to add to let everybody know. Someone here just before this mentioned National Apprenticeship Week. National Apprenticeship Week is November 9th to the 14th. And so it may be a little bit, quite a bit different this year than we've had in previous years. But I know that we have been asked already to do some virtual speaking. And so I'm hoping all of you in all your 16 areas are involved in events. And as it comes down the pipe, we are just getting ready to close out our fiscal year. So national office is quite busy. But if you go to apprenticeship.gov, I believe there'll probably be some information about National Apprenticeship Week. I don't know if it's up right now, but it will be because of so many things going on in Washington right now. But I would just want to make sure that we record all your events and get that in Washington. We did an excellent job the last few years, and thanks to everybody here. So I wanted to share that.
Yeah, thank you, Russ. Great reminder. And I did notice, as of this morning anyway, the national site still is on 19.
Yeah, I don't think it'll get changed till probably after October 1.
Okay.
Okay.
But yep, absolutely a great time to start planning, and
yeah,
excited again to see the marketing campaign. I don't know exactly what to expect, but I'm hoping that that has continued positive impact. The materials look great that are on the national site right now. I like the tone, right, which was that, your plan is action. Makes a lot of sense. So hopefully that rebranding or whatever they're doing will have the desired impact.
I think that we, our apprentice training representatives, can do the 1.0 session with the potential sponsors. They've been doing that right along, and but we certainly want to work with anybody and everybody if there's anything that to do to make these successful. So thank you very much, and thanks everybody for the great morning.
So I was just going to add like what Evan kind of shared. I mean, I think a crosswalk could definitely be valuable, because if we look at it on the WIOLA programs, we have adult, youth, dislocated worker, and then trade adjustment assistance. And I think amongst those sample of WIOLA programs, there are components that can help support, you know, the participant through a registered apprenticeship program. So not sure if that is something that Evelyn had in mind, but as I'm just kind of thinking about it, that would be a good example of a crosswalk. So anyway, was that what you were thinking about, Evelyn?
Yeah, yeah. Incorporating, you know, maybe have two different ones to talk that we would demonstrate the WIOA components as far as the credentials that we can incorporate into an apprenticeship that would be successful or would provide a shorter term, so to say, for the case management, but also the crosswalk, like you mentioned, Kevin. That's exactly what I was talking about.
Yeah, I think like having like kind of like really clear understanding of like those different programs, you know, TAA, dislocated worker, youth, and adults, and identify what are those available eligible training funds can be applied for, you know, registered apprentices. That I think that would be definitely helpful. As it relates to like the credential piece, we'll have to probably dive in that a little deeper, because as we all know, it could also vary among each MWA, you know, related to like, you know, how certain credentials may or may not be applied. So that's something that I think we can work, like maybe like, you know, perhaps kind of like have a subcommittee of like, you know, some team members from our side, and then with some ASCs to look at that. But I think creating one that's more of a crosswalk of categories of each of those examples of programs, and seeing what those eligible funds may be, that may help a lot. You know, especially for the apprenticeship team at each of the MWA, but also for the business service team as well.
Plus, we have all these grants that we're going to be stacking as well. So,
yep.
Just
Those
a
are.
suggestion.
Yep. Sounds good.
And I just wanted to mention that one of the things that I've cautioned BSPs about is going too far into the weeds with businesses. Howard knows a lot about the different programs that we offer, but I really try to stress that not all employers need to know details about every one of those programs. They just need to know that there's funds available, and whether there's funds available, and we can put those people in the pots of money that we need to.
We do have another question. Can anyone from Leo provide further information around the futures for frontliners and RA?
Boy, that's a great question. And I've seen it asked a couple different ways. I don't think we have a good answer yet. Do we, Kevin? I don't see Marcia's on currently. I'm looking.
Yeah. So the program itself kind of just recently kicked off.
Yeah.
And I think that can be something that we can follow up on for Stephanie, and then all MWA AACs, and you know, I think maybe we can provide an update on that during our October conference call, because we've been receiving, you know, Leo, emails related to the Futures for Frontliners, you know, program or campaign, and then perhaps at that time we can provide more details, and then, you know, how does that work, and then whom would, you know, whom they would contact to identify eligibility. Actually, I'm just looking at one of the examples here. If you go to michigan.gov/frontliners, that will be the landing page of the program. And so I think that's a good start for, you know, to look at more details of how it works.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin. And so we've been on that website and that page. I've got numerous employers asking, because they do have essential workers and, you know, first-year apprentices, and they're looking for help with offsetting the RTI, but specifically in the Futures for Frontliner program. And so like any further details would be greatly appreciated, because it just kind of puts us back at the beginning where it says a training opportunity available through the MITC. And so it goes back to, you know, the apprenticeship questions and how are we supposed to allocate that funding, you know, with an ITA somehow. So any information like that would be greatly appreciated. And also integration, you know, is the future for frontliners funding under the registered apprenticeship umbrella, you know, with our union partners, is it eligible with our other state grants? You know, and I'm guessing it's eligible for our federal apprenticeship grants when it comes to blending the programs, but just clarification around that, because there are so many funding streams that we do pull from, and it is on a case-by-case scenario, obviously, but, you know, if it's coming through the Michigan Works, you know, do we need to get them WIOA registered? It's just kind of like there's a stopping point on the website with the employers, and it's kind of ending with us. So any info is greatly appreciated.
Oh, I thought you know the info, Stephanie. I thought you were going to share.
I wish. Hey, I'll build. What's that saying? I'll build the ship as I'm sailing. So.
Yeah. Okay, no problem. Yeah, I think like, well, at least we'll have to follow up then, because so we can get more details. But then also for that program, you know, who are, you know, what's their point of contact? Because, you know, somebody's leading that particular campaign. And so we'll have to see on our side on how we can get that information for you.
Thank you.
Bringing it up. It's certainly, obviously it's in the governor and legislators, you know, fiscal year 2020, fiscal year 2021. So they're going to make it happen, and we just got to understand the details on how can we, you know, help people with it. Thanks.
This is Lee. I just want to touch a little bit around that area too. I think what's important is we talk about registered apprenticeships, right? Real registered apprenticeships, and just the fact with the future of frontliners, those that would qualify, that would have already completed, right, went on to become a journey person, that haven't fulfilled their associates or other degrees, you know, so going back and being able to leverage that opportunity is, you know, kind of segueing into the 60 by 30 as well, right, for one of the governor's initiatives. So it's just a nice combination and kind of what we're looking at, you know, just from, you know, the labor perspective too, so.
Great, yeah, thank you, Lee, it makes sense.
So I see no other questions in the chat. I don't know if anybody wants to come off mute and ask a question in person, but that's what we have in the chat.
Thank you, Kim. Great questions and comments. So it sounds like come off mute and ask away or comment away, please.
Hi, Scott. This is Mary with Michigan Works West Central. How
Hi,
would the
Mary.
Going Pro Apprenticeship Grant work with unions?
Good question. Kevin, please.
Oh, thanks, Scott. You give me the hard questions. Oh, okay. I get it. I see how this rolls. Okay. It works perfectly. It's in alignment, Mary. And this is a question I had from Cheryl at Great Lakes Bay as well. You know, you can utilize the Going Pro Apprenticeship funds, specifically policy 2004, towards, you know, cultivating new RAs. You can utilize those funds with your you know, employers, or you can work with your labor trade partners in your community, and then it's basically, you know, you're providing you know, training reimbursements, OJT or RTI, or supportive services for the new apprentices. So it's your discretion of how you want to utilize it. And certainly, you know, you're going to want to determine how much can be provided as reimbursements for your partners, both with private employers and with labor trade organizations as well.
Great, thanks.
And I just wanted to add that the group that we had through the bricklayers, that's the funding that we ended up using, part of the funding that we ended up using for that group.
Yep.
Great. Yeah, thank you. Good comments. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Mary, for asking. That's an excellent question. And for those who may not know, the Going Pro Apprenticeship funding is currently active in the state, and we have $2.5 million that was active depending on what region you're in. Just after February, it came active about the same time that we all entered quarantine. So those funds are still just kind of becoming recognized. Thanks for using them, Wanda, in your region. But yep, those are available and ready to help with registered apprenticeships. Great question. Next. It's pretty quiet.
Hi, this is
Yeah.
Christy again.
Hey, Christy.
I'm so excited to hear that our next one, we're going to have the veterans on to talk about the process for a veteran to go through. I've been working with a young man since November of last year for him to get his GI Bill benefits. At first, we were given wrong information that the program, he couldn't take non-credit classes and get GI benefits. Then I got a hold of somebody at the state and in the approval office that approves the programs. They gave me wrong information about him, who's going to fill out the paperwork for them, because Wynn is acting as the intermediary. That put us back. His employer has been absolutely gracious as far as they said if he needs to take credit hour classes, we'll switch his program. If we need to get a registered apprenticeship program, we'll do that, because they were doing an internal apprenticeship program. So they have recently become registered. They brought on 17 newly registered individuals. They are continuing to build their business. They're electrician. It's an electrical business, so they're bringing on electricians, which is awesome. There is a lack of communication. Just calling and letting people know that there's something, that their process is happening, that it's going to take another couple days, it's going to take a week. It's just been very challenging. And so I've been working with him, and finally today I received an email from them telling us what the next step is once they get the approval internally. But I feel so bad because it has taken so long. I feel like, being in the position that I'm in, and as long as I've been involved with this Michigan Works, and prior to that, whatever we were called before that, that I have a pretty good grasp on how to make things work for people. And in this circumstances, I knew nothing. So I've learned a lot of things along the way. And I'm so glad to hear that we're going to be able to do that. If I can ask this question, or have you pose this question to them, whoever's coming in to do the presentation, if they could give us kind of like an outline of what the process is for an individual who wants to get, tap into their GI benefits when it comes to apprenticeships, because that would be extremely helpful for anybody else who's moving through this. Thank you for listening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a couple quick comments. Yeah, thanks for those remarks there, Chrissy. And yes, the answer is yes. Yes, we are. So right now, just to let everybody know, the ALN 7 Veterans Apprenticeship is scheduled for Thursday, October 22nd. Be a very timeline like today's event, the planning team is going to kick off with our first meeting starting next Monday. So we're going to get into details in place, but I've also shared our activity with our state approving agency, subject matter experts, which is Troy Tissue and Shafton Dunklin, and they will be involved. And we're hoping to provide them, a platform for them to share about the new online tool that has been implemented, but also, what is the process on how employers may, go through the application to be a GI Bill sponsor. And that's one of our, goals as we're moving forward, is to increase having registered apprenticeship sponsors to be GI Bill approved. So we are certainly moving towards that direction.
Thank you, Kevin, and thank you, Chris.
Comment,
go ahead, Russ.
Just a comment. We're going to have a representative from Senator Peters' office on that meeting October 22nd. And if we have some of these questions and concerns, maybe we'll get them to that gentleman prior to the meeting so he can address these issues. Also, Scott, I just want to tell everybody I've got to jump off to get ready for another meeting. And I want to thank everybody for today. I think it was a very informative meeting, and look forward to the next meeting, October 22nd, to kind of pick up where we left off here. I think these are good for everybody, good for sharing, and good for our relationship. So thanks again, Scott, for hosting this.
You're welcome. Thank you for joining us, Russ, and for presenting this morning and kicking us off here. And so the 22nd, Kevin just mentioned, is going to be sort of a similar format. It is going to be expanded in that we are partnering with the Michigan, well, a couple of different departments related to the Veterans Administration as well. And we'll be tying together the regional Veterans Employment Services coordinators and teams that work in the regions to try and make that connection richer between registered apprenticeship and the activities with veterans. So we're all pretty excited about that. Any other concerns or thoughts? Questions?
This is Howard. I'd just like to say it was really helpful to me to be able to meet all of the Michigan Works representatives, Apprentice Success Coordinators from across the state, already doing some chatting back and forth and making some plans. So thank you very much for pulling this together. It's been good.
Great. Well, you're welcome. Yeah, Kevin Chow actually led our planning teams for this activity and is for the next one. So there you go, Kevin. I think that's a little bit, right, of mission accomplished. In our last session, I think John Hartwell, Scott, you guys remember, I'm missing a bunch of you all that worked to pull that together. The request was, let's get together and meet everybody. So Howard, thanks for your comments. That was kind of part of the mission, right, was to make sure that you guys get connected better. I guess quite candidly from the state side, what happens a lot of times, right, especially with labor, you guys are so good at this and you know so much about it that I find it like a little bit intimidating. And so I guess I would encourage us all, just as we get to meet each other, just make that first effort to reach out. And I know when you guys presented, kind of what you do in labor, a lot of it is so fast and kind of because you just speak that language all the time and you're comfortable with it. I mean, I didn't even know we were all bricklayers at heart until today. And I've kind of realized that calling before, but now I know it's innate in all of us. And I would say for us, I would challenge us on the state and on the workforce board side to reach out to these our presenters today that have introduced themselves, even if we're not quite comfortable and not sure if we got the right one, because it looks to me like if we get to one of them, right, there's that network that we can harness into to get to another one. So I think the challenge for us is just to follow through, because a lot of times we've got an opportunity, but we're really not sure what to do with it. And sometimes we don't want to bother the ATR or Russ at the moment because they might have something else going on with us. So, you know, they're working on another one, but I think we just really got to continue to do this, to reach out, to kind of take that step towards expanding the relationship, gaining more knowledge. And those are kind of my thoughts I have going through. I mean, you guys rock, man. You're really on this stuff. I know the need is strong. I feel really honored that you're here with us today. I know we all do. And we're just excited to not just continue, but to really grow the productivity from our discussions and our efforts. So any other closing thoughts that people may have about today's session or anything else?
Scott, I just have a quick comment too. I also want to thank the Mission Works Association for their support and partnership, because they're part of our planning team with this particular event and future events. And I think like their their relationship is fantastic. So Michelle, Rhonda, Christine Klee, Kim, thank you very much for your help. And you guys did a fantastic job with this, with the logistics and the platform and everything. We look forward to working with you. So I just want to say thank you very much on that. If there's any discounts for multiple ALNs, please let us know. We'd like to take advantage of that. But yeah, thanks a lot.
Hey Scott, I was wondering something on a side note. Could we leave this call open for a little bit? Last time we had all the training directors together, we were talking about interactive classrooms. I'm actually in my classroom right now, and I was wondering if some of the training directors might want to stick around and kind of see how we're running our programs right now with the COVID going on.
Yeah, Kim, is that a possibility? I don't know what the schedule looks like for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I see no problem with leaving it open for you guys to utilize the space, so feel free.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to say, if you guys want to stick around for a little bit, I was going to kind of run you through how we were operating our classes right now.
Excellent. Yep. So any other thoughts or comments before we turn it over?
Yeah, thank you, Scott. Thank you, everybody. Very good. Very good and informative today. It was nice to meet everybody.
Yeah, thank you, John. And thanks for your help at pulling everything together. I mean, there's, as you know, it is a lot of work behind the scenes, even to make just the virtual piece come off, right? But well done. I mean, it sounds like we've accomplished the mission. So thank you for your help.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else? Well, I'll remind everybody that you are what makes apprenticeship expand and touch so many lives in Michigan. So thank you for your work. And for those that want to learn a little bit more about virtual education, it sounds like we can stay right here if Rick doesn't mind, and we'll learn a little bit more about it. And those that need to go, though, please do so now. And thanks so much for your attendance today.
Thank you, Scott.